gonna give me a break. They were talking about why the Dems love modern slavery and all the insights to that. And we have some people here that agree with that, and some people that obviously don't. And it's gonna be a good time. But first, just we're gonna have everybody introduce themselves, tell us who they are, what they do, and then we'll come back around for intros. Start us off with average debate enjoyer.
Name's Average Debate Enjoyer. Go by Tyler. That you can find me on YouTube and Twitch doing that. And we're giving stance, quick overall stance too.
Sure, go ahead. Let's do that.
All right, fine. So I think maybe the panel goes a little bit too far in legal slavery. I think it's better to say legal indentured servitude. That's probably a closer fit. The reasons why we're going to go over, but extra seats when delegating
That's
House
how you know he's
seats to the
center.
Congress, extra money
Because he
going
gave
to
us
your
the
state,
leeway
and
of
if we
legal
see,
indentured
look at the
servitude.
promises of the Democrats when they run for office, those people that are yesterday's second-class indentured servants are going to be tomorrow's voters if they give amnesty to all of them as stated. So we're going to go over all that tonight probably.
All right, fantastic. Thank you very much. We got Fabian Liberty.
Yeah, I'm Fabian Liberty. Just Google me, and I'm on YouTube and Twitter, Fabian Liberty. Yeah, I am an anarcho-objectivist. I mostly do like interviews, debates, and reactions from that perspective, and talk a lot about political philosophy and stuff. So my definition of slavery that I wrote out. This is me. Any system that forcibly takes the product of one's labor or property or compels a
I'm
person
doing
to
it,
act
dude.
against his will is a form of aggression that negates bodily autonomy and reduces the individual to a state of servitude. That is what I am arguing is slavery, and by that definition, the Democrats are obviously, without a doubt, pro-slavery. The arguments that I would give forward towards that would be that taxation is a form of theft and coerced labor, that the welfare state is a dependency trap to create slaves. Democrats love regulations on property and thus on people's autonomy. They have historically always believed in these things, from the New Deal, the silent generation forward. They are uniquely for gun control in a way that the far left and the right are not, as a means of disarming the slaves that they have created. Affirmative action, diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives, and things of this nature is a form of coerced inequality. Public education is a system of indoctrination that is designed to pacify and indoctrinate their slaves into liking their own slavery. Healthcare mandates, insurance mandates, and things of this nature are absolutely a form of slavery that require the labor of coerced labor of doctors and insurance providers and people that are forced into those systems. And labor regulations, NLRB, and things of this nature make slaves both of the workers and corporations, and is a form of corporate bootlicking designed to help large corporations.
I was not prepared
and
to
is
have an
also
anti-libertarian
designed to
debate. I'm going to
maintain
have a
power
headache if
and
I
the system of
focus
slavery.
specifically on
And the
him.
last one would be
I wanted to talk about illegal
it
immigration.
needs no explanation, eminent domain.
Right. Thank you so much. Grid.
Yeah, I'm Grid One Motorsports. You can find me at An Unreasonable Man on YouTube, Twitch. I even have a Rumble that I don't really use much, but you can find me there. I'm also on X and some other places, but I don't really. I guess I'm just not a social media kind of guy that way. But I really appreciate you having me on, Gibbs, and chance to have the conversation that we'll have. I kind of agree with Tyler. It's more like indentured servitude, but I think that we can draw some parallels very accurately with that indentured servitude model, especially with the H-1B visa program, and we can't ignore the illegal immigrants that are coming in that are being like we saw in the Hyundai plant that was raided, I believe, down in Georgia. I could be wrong about that. I've read a lot of articles this week.
I don't want to say the moderator's biased,
they
guys,
raided the
but
Hyundai
my teammate's a
plant,
fucking turtle. All right?
full of illegal immigrants who were basically, I mean, they're not forced to work there per se, but certainly they can't really go anywhere else to get a job. So it becomes a very interesting dynamic. The H-1B program, it's a scheme in my mind that ties a foreign worker like a serf to as a sponsor and like a feudal lord sort of manner. these these workers are often from India and China. I've known some of the Chinese ones myself. I've talked to them about it, and I've watched them navigate the their situation. They do actually, there's a lot of problems with the system. I don't understand why the Democrats seem to love this particular system, but we'll get into it and figure it out tonight. And I can't wait to hear more.
All right. Thank you so much, Soy Pill.
Yeah. Just to be clear, I did think this debate was about illegal immigration and how it was akin to slavery. If we do get into a libertarian debate, which I'm willing to do, I might self-immolate midway through, but that's fine. Just wanted to warn everyone. Illegal immigration does have a lot of issues with underpaid and abused workers. That is why Democrats support a path to citizenship, as Tyler mentioned. You can call it indentured servitude. I might even agree that, to an extent, a lot of these people are stuck and abused by their employers, and that is why we're trying to get them, social security numbers, pay their taxes, and actually get paid fair wages. That's why we support a path to citizenship. We don't want this to continue. In regards to the welfare state, it's the same thing. Just because we want a social safety net to help people in their lowest time does not mean we want them to be on it permanently, which is why there are so many ways that these things ask you to get off of it. In fact, a lot of people do get off of it within 1, 2, or 5 years. I think it's like 90% of people. So, for example, any sort of unemployment saying, hey, are you looking for a job? We're trying to get you on a job. Now, to be fair, it's not very good, and I wish it was better. But the idea that we want to keep them like this, reliant on the state, or keep them indentured and illegal immigrants is very weird to me, because I just don't think that is at all the platform of the Democrats, or ever really has been. We don't want that. I don't believe the Democrats support slavery. We're not the Democrats of the 1850s.
Thank you so much. Yes, and don't worry, those are going to be the two main focuses, or at least that's my plan. But we'll see how the combo goes. Let's go to our newest guest, Val here. Welcome into the panel. It's good to see you, Turtle. Go ahead and
Tortoise.
Give us your
Tortoise gives.
Tortoise. It is a tortoise. Yes, my bad. I should know that. Give us your where to find you, what you do, and your opening thoughts.
Hi, I'm Val or Valerie. I guess I'm like I don't really know. I used to do some YouTube stuff, but I'm mostly around on like Discord and whatnot. I was kind of asked to fill in for another person who was here. Mostly what I do is I like do reading concerning philosophy and a lot of different like moral reasoning, and then I do some like political commentary here and there.
Fantastic.
If you really want to find me, I'm like Bunk Politics on Twitter, I guess, but I don't really post there.
Okay. What are your opening thoughts on the subject?
My opening thoughts end up being so there has to be like a really large equivocation if I'm to take the statement that it is essentially like modern day slavery what slavery means. I don't think that's what we want to be encapsulating whenever most people are trying to talk about, though. I guess people trying to make their decisions and their reasons based on what's the best economic choice for them. If we want to have conversations, like I'm sure Fabian Liberty and I could probably find like common ground on things like the unfairness of the system and whatnot. We can have conversations about that, but that does end up being quite different from the ownership of people and the consideration of them as property, or similar to like cattle and whatnot. These people are afforded rights, and in fact, I think probably under Republicans, they end up being afforded less rights, treated more similar to the cattle of similar slavery moral status. And so I don't really end up having much agreement on the proposition, but I don't know. I think it'd be an interesting conversation either way.
All right, thank you so much. Let's get like a Soy Pill kind of alluded to in his opening. Yeah, I do want to maybe focus more at the beginning, at least, on the illegal immigration and the some of the welfare state kind of situations that we have. I think maybe we can go into the eminent domain later. I think that's also.
I just went with the prompt. I'm the
Yeah,
only one
no,
who
you're
agrees with the
fine.
prompt.
No, you're fine. I mean, I think
Mhm.
imminent. I didn't even think imminent domain when we started this, but I think that would be a good addition to it. But yeah. Soy Pill, you opened up with the what's not the Democratic Party of old when I famous lines, who's gonna pick our cotton, who's gonna pick our crops, and then who's gonna clean our bathrooms. That's been uttered by the Democrats of old and the Democrats of today. It seems like they're worried about the slaves.
Yes, so I did want to address that. So that is a line that's often coupled with the illegal immigration, topic, and it is true. The idea that if we just were to mass deport all the illegal immigrants, one, it would be incredibly costly, and two, it would be a huge hit to three big industries: construction, agriculture, and restaurant workers. Now, the idea that like, oh, they're doing the jobs no one else wants to do, and then you add on the implication being, because not a lot of people have this nuance, so you want them to be underpaid. That's why people don't want these jobs. Keep them in these jobs because they are supporting our economy on all this like fucked up, damn near slave labor. I don't think is nearly borne out when you look at what the Democratic Party actually advocates for, which is, hey, we people do think these people should deserve better wages. We do think that they should get the Social Security back that they're paying into with their stolen tax numbers or whatever. So we should legalize them, naturalize them, make sure they get fair wages. And if these industries can't survive without paying people sub minimum wage wages, then they shouldn't survive, or they should be regulated out of existence, or seized by the government or something. So yes, I do understand the sentiment of, hey, look at this, you guys are claiming that we need to keep these slave classes working. I don't think that's the end of the argument, because the Democratic Party advocates to not keep them as a slave class. But
Well,
yeah.
I mean, so the Democrat Party, am I wrong in saying that they were unhappy that the Hyundai plant in Georgia got raided and ICE arrested 475 people and is set to deport those people?
Yeah, I think they're unhappy about it. Yeah.
Okay. So those people were mostly South Korean nationals flown in by Hyundai. They didn't come across the border. They didn't. They're not what you're talking about. They're not
Mhm.
people who came here for freedom. They didn't come here for a better life. They were hired in
I
South
mean,
Korea to fly across the world and have a fucking job. That's not what you're talking about, Soy Pill. So I'm
Well,
confused as to why you're
one
saying
second.
that.
So one, let's just accept every premise. I don't necessarily, because they did come here for a better life, to be clear. But that's not a majority of what I think people would talk about when we're talking about legal
Why do you
immigration.
say
And I
that?
think,
Tell me how that's possible that they came, that they came here for a better life.
well, what do you think they came here to do?
I think they came here because someone in South Korea said, "Hey, we've got a job. You're going to live in the factory. You're going
Hmm.
to or in factory housing, and you're going to work for us at a wage we send back to your family in South Korea. But there's no route to
Oh, okay.
citizenship.
Excuse me. Just to be clear,
There's
I'm not claiming, when I say better life, I don't mean they came to America to establish themselves as Americans and invest in this country. I mean, they saw this as an opportunity to improve their lives. That's why they would do something that would underpay them or treat them poorly, or break the law in such a way. Not, hey, they're clearly here
They
to
don't.
like
I don't know
invest
that
in the
they
country.
even knew. I don't know that they understood they were breaking the law because they don't.
No,
They may
very
not
possibly not.
understand
But
immigration
the
policy.
point of contention is not that specifically, though. What I'm trying to say is, when I'm talking about illegal immigration writ large, like, yes, this is one example of it. I would say the Democrats' problem with this is either one, if everything you're saying, if we accept it, they don't understand that
Mhm.
this is like a very different exception of a specific company flying in illegal immigrants to abuse the law, and not, hey, people who came here overstayed visas and then are trying to work and make a living, and we should naturalize them. But
Grid, can I? Oh,
oh, go ahead.
sorry.
Well, can
Grid,
I just?
can I accept your premise? I would like to
Yeah,
accept
yeah.
your
Go ahead.
premise, and I would.
Well,
I
actually,
would like to say
can I just
this is.
expound on this really quickly before
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it escapes me? So here's the thing: Georgia Democrats called it politically motivated fear tactics. That's a quote. And Senator Raphael Warnock, you may have heard of
Yeah.
him. He questioned the strategy of arresting and deporting these people. Now this was out. There was outrage at the raid, not the exploitation of these people. The problem was is not that these people are being exploited, but that Americans went in there and said, "Hey, you can't do this." Now apparently this is a something that's growing. It's a growing thing in the United States where um, because of our lax border security and that sort of thing, we have companies like LG, specifically LG and Hyundai. I'm just going to pick on them because that's been documented. There may be others. And these companies literally fly over people to work in their factories. They pay them equivalent wages to what they make in their home country. They feed them, they house them in basically dorms. These are equivalent to slave cottages in the ancient South and that you would have a problem with. This is exactly slavery. This is exactly slavery. I don't care if they're
I would
getting a
actually.
minimum wage. And
Yeah,
so,
so I would. Oh, okay.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, trust me. I'm going to talk
Paying
too much
minimum
tonight.
wage and voluntarily working it, and you find it to be
They're
equivalent
not
to
paying
slavery
them
more.
minimum wage.
Well,
They're
so
not. They're
this
not
is
paying them.
so.
Well, you
So
said you
what I
don't
was
care
going to
if it's
say
minimum
is,
wage.
Val, hold on a second, Val. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
So
go ahead.
this is
Sorry.
this is going to be one of the areas where I would say that this is proof that also the Republicans love slavery, because what you are
I was
describing
going to ask at the
is
beginning,
the
Scott.
is the enslavement.
Huge W.
You're describing the enslavement of the factory owners and the businessmen for Hyundai. These people voluntarily, presuming everything that you said is true, they voluntarily left where they were to come work a job and have a voluntary contract. And this is one of the few instances where the Democrats are conveniently not pro-slavery here, because they're outraged at the government getting in between a voluntary contract between people that want to exchange labor, for services. So I would actually
You know what
argue
this
that the
meme? This is
Republicans
this is the meme right
that
now.
are
I
in
can see
favor of
that.
the
I can see that
deportation
argument.
You
are
guys know this
pro-slavery
one?
in this
From
regard.
This
from a
the tug of
libertarian
war
point of view, I
meme.
can see that.
This is what's happening to me right now.
I guess where I'm looking
Especially
at
because
this.
they're
I
invited.
guess he's on my side.
Right, this isn't like I want
For
to
a
make that
second.
very clear.
Well, I
From
mean,
like a
I'm
Hoppian
making an
perspective.
assumption they're invited.
Well, no, they're
I don't-
invited by the.
don't know.
I don't think Hyundai kidnapped them, right?
Yeah,
if they-
wait. I do want to clear things up because
if there's sex
wait. Can I
South Korea
put a
does
fact
have
here?
sex
Can I put a fact?
trafficking issues and things, but
Scott, Fabian, 1 second. So the according to the lawyers, which again I don't know what the facts of this case are. I didn't specifically research this, but according to the lawyers, a majority of these people are on the B1 visas, which is legal actually. So there might be some illegal immigrants mixed in with this, or maybe they all are and they're lying about that.
That's usually
but,
how that is.
Right, like this is like not, to my knowledge, some like mass exploitation thing that I know of. And if it is, this is not representative of, I think, the overall position of the Democratic Party. The reason you might see the reaction, especially from, like, let's say you just showed me this headline and we're like, wow, that's awful the way they're doing that, is because the way it fits into the narrative of how ICE has been conducting raids in the past 3 months. But if you showed the facts of, hey, these people are specifically not even akin to the illegal immigrants that you're used to, this is a specific exploitation program, I bet most people would actually have a problem with that. So
I mean, I think it's to me it seems like exploitation.
Except for Fabian.
I mean, maybe
yeah, it's not exploitation if it's a voluntary agreement. Now, if they use the fact that they're here illegally as a means of coercing them into labor, then that's when that goes from a voluntary exchange into utilizing our draconian immigration laws that Democrats and Republicans often both support as a means of being able to actually exploit labor. But if it's a purely voluntary contract, then the government getting in the way of that is the enslavement.
So I actually almost agree with you. My only thing is that, and of course I distilled this down from like 3 or 4 different.
I'm winning minds. I'm not winning hearts tonight. I get it.
I'm getting there, but it is a very specific. And I wrote systemic. I don't know why I did that, but exploitation where corporations like Hyundai and LG hire undocumented or visa violating workers to undercut American labor costs, often in hazardous conditions with no recourse. And again, the outrage was that it was rated, not that people were being exploited.
I think the general.
Sure, I could see it that if it was a voluntary, I don't know that it's voluntary. I don't know that it's not a bait and switch game.
But Grid, the overall point I'm trying to make is that Democrats, maybe in this specific instance of this specific story, were more outraged over the raid. But in general, the Democratic position is not, we should let illegal immigrants work and not give a shit about that. The position is, let's give these people tax numbers, let's naturalize them, because they are being abused, because by being illegal immigrants, they are more scared to, report labor abuses. They're able to be paid sub-minimum wage. Like, I don't know a single Democrat or people that claim to be Democrats who are pro-abuse of illegal immigrant workers, other than the narrative, which Gibbs pointed out, of, oh, hey, like, you want to get rid of all the crop workers, right? And it's like, no. They want to make those crop workers be paid fair wages.
Real quick, the thing is what it does, right? Like, the thing is what it does. And so I agree with you that if you were to ask about the specifics of the case, you're 100% right here. But the problem that I see in this regard is that I think you have a Democratic establishment, or we'll just say, the left in general, isolating maybe like the revolutionary left, right? is very much in favor of loosening the regulations on immigration as it pertains to coming into this country. And what that often leads to is corporations and people abusing these people. And it's like, okay, but we're also for then giving these people a pathway to citizenship. And so it's like, I kind of agree with you if the full plan is enacted, but when you are for loosening of regulations in one domain so that you can grant citizenship, then you are just trying to find a way to get people over here. You don't mind that they're temporarily exploited, though you will if asked about it specifically, and so that you can import a voter base and import new slaves into the system of slavery that Democrats are in such favor of.
The only thing I would concede here is that without implementing the naturalization and having, let's say, Biden's border policy from 2020 to 2024, without the naturalization, that was not able to pass. I believe they tried to pass some bipartisan bill in like 23.
Bipartisan is doing a lot of heavy lifting on that one. Like,
Well,
fair enough.
I'm not talking about the which was
yeah.
like literally a path to citizenship, right? Like I can understand, I concede that, like, yeah, if you let one of these things happen and this thing materially doesn't manifest, then you are in a way increasing the indentured illegal immigrant population. I guess the only thing I'd have to say against that is like, but that's not what these people want. That's not what the Democrats stand for. And so I'm a little... It's iffy to say like, okay, well, what matters more is like the outcomes of your actions. But like, if we're constantly trying to push legislation to make these people not be in what we, colloquially here would call slavery,
I would just say the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and I think that kind of surmises a lot of Democrat policy.
I just don't want the dichotomy to be real quick. I just don't want the dichotomy to be.
Yeah, go ahead. So I want to get Tyler here because he's over here.
Last thing. Yeah. He's ready to box. I don't want the dichotomy to be, well, if you're more lax or letting more people come into this country, if you don't immediately have the utility of being able to pass a naturalization bill for these people you claim to want to naturalize, therefore you are harmful and pro-slavery. So the only other option for you to do is to be, Republican on the border. I think that's a kind of a weird dichotomy
just
there.
To be very clear, and I know you want to switch to Tyler. That's not my argument. One, I accept that framing for myself in terms of the appropriate way to dissolve the state and it being an ordered process. But two, I'm not saying that's why you're pro-slavery. That's one of the few reasons why you wouldn't be pro-slavery would be the allowing of voluntary contracts. It's all the other state socialist policies that you support that are why you're pro-slavery.
Just to close this out, because I want to get out of Tyler's way here, but the Hyundai raid is really new.
We should just keep interrupting and being like, and then Tyler can speak.
Look, right? So
just one more thing, and then I don't want to.
Raid is really new.
We go through the entire panel closing statements, and it's like, Tyler, you want to end this off?
And then, it's funny, but look, the Hyundai raid's really, really new. It just happened on the 5th of September. We're still getting information. A lot of the stuff I have is still being vetted, right? So I don't want to stick to that too specifically, but it is an example where we have an abuse of the system and nobody's seen the outrage was that they went in and raided it, not the exploitation of the people. And that's just by the Democrat leaders. I'm not saying the rank and file feel that way. I'm saying that Warnock wasn't mad that they were exploiting people and not paying them and working them in bad conditions. No, he was mad because Trump had ICE go in there and shut the operation down, and now they have to hire American workers and vetted workers and that sort of thing. And so that's what Warnock was mad about, and he is a Democrat, and therefore that's why I'm able to say that in this case, I think Democrats are much more interested in the raids part of it than the exploitation part of it. And now, I'm sorry, Tyler, I just wanted to kind of close that out.
No. So your little anecdotal sub-tangent there is how you start a great article. You give a nice anecdote to kind of lead in and get everybody's emotions riled up, and then I'm going to come in with the two-punch and lay out the empirical. You went after an anecdote to show that even when the criteria that Sori was talking about wasn't there, we still see opposition. Now I'm going to go into the criteria he's talking about. We're going to talk about the 16 potentially million legal immigrants here that cost our government an estimated up to $150 billion a year by being here. Now, the reason why we only take in 1.25 or so roughly legal immigrants a year is because we don't want to overload the economy. what we saw during the Biden administration when they were refusing to deport people, 1.4 million that had valid deportation orders. They ignored the law and didn't deport them. Not only is ignoring the law bad, but not deporting them and keeping them here, a lot of them being violent offenders, would suggest that they want these people here. Their agenda is to keep them here regardless of what the law is. Sanctuary cities back that up. Now, going into those people, we also see people that were coming in for asylum.
Real quick, Tyler, could I make sure you clarify, because you did just bake in two things that I think are being conflated. I think a sanctuary city, which is a ultimate and overall defense of all illegal immigrants, is not the same as you were talking about certain people with deportation orders, probably violent criminals that they weren't deporting, conflating this with the sanctuary cities. I'm just making sure those aren't the same thing right now.
They aren't the same, but they have the same in spirit. Both of them are rejecting the federal mandate to deport people that the courts order need to be deported. And only about 1/3 of those people with deportation orders had any sort of violent conviction. And burglary is listed in there and other things, so it's not all like you punch somebody or whatever. So the violence thing is definitely just a sub point, but 1.44 million valid deportation orders, most of which were ignored, including Albreo Garcia, who is a human trafficker and beat his wife. So that shows me that they want them here. If they're not deporting the people, the courts are telling them this person's valid and needs to go. And then sanctuary cities also tell me that
for those
as well.
2/3 of people that have no violent criminal history, these are the actual individuals that, if you were to deport them, is the actual slavery position. The reason the Democrats are pro slavery is not that they don't follow the federal mandate to get rid of people who have broken no crime other than crossing a border. The reason that they're pro slavery is that they support things like the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which is a pro slavery bill that makes it illegal for people to discriminate against other people based upon their race or their
pin in that
country
one.
of origin.
I need to
or
come
their
back to that
religion.
one.
That violates the right of freedom of association, and all of the downstream effects of that, as well as all of the forms of welfare and taxation that they steal from American workers here that have a marginal propensity to consume that's much lower than impoverished immigrants that are coming in that then become welfare leeches. So it is the taxation and the inability of people living here to go, actually, I don't want you in my neighborhood, therefore I'm not going to give you a job and I'm not going to rent you a house because I have a right to associate with the people that I want to associate with. So no, deporting people that have committed no property crimes does not make the Democrats pro-slavery. In that instance, it actually makes the Republicans pro-slavery. It is the horrendous effects of the
I thought Fabian would derail me.
evil,
He's derailing them so much more,
like
and I guess I'm
food
fine with it for
stamps and
now.
the Civil Rights Act that makes Democrats pro-slavery.
You're using a slightly different definition of slavery than the rest of the panel, I think, in your libertarian stances here.
I'm just stepping back. I'm like, this is somewhat working to my advantage right now, but like, this is wild.
Fabian
Like,
Liberty, whenever Fabian Liberty is saying it's almost
Does
like
anyone-
a form of slavery.
Hold on,
You're
let
taking
Val
away
go.
some agency of theirs, of like the ability to move freely for what seems like not a very good reason. I think that we should.
I'll give my definition
have
again
some-
if someone
yeah,
has a
we should
competing
have
one.
some almost prima facie like justification towards people being in the place that they want to be without an overriding reason. And so, like, I don't know, saying that Democrats or like even the Republicans are not pro-slavery, deporting these people seems to like act as though their life ends once we deport them. Really, their problems just end up not being ours anymore. In reality, they end up having to go back to working in what is probably worse laboring conditions with probably worse rule of law.
What is your argument? Because it feels like at the tail end of your argument there, you kind of waffled on the position. I understand you don't necessarily accept the premise of the slavery thing, but I'm trying to better
I think what
understand
Val
your
is
argument. I
saying
don't want
is
to just start yelling at you, Val. Can I get Val to explain it?
Yeah, so it's the deprivation of the agency from the individual is kind of what I'm getting at here. And so I think that you'd agree with me. I think we're both going to be pretty much next to anarchists, where we're going to say something like, let's say it's the case that somebody wants to like cross over some given area in order to like get food or something of the nature. I think we both agree, given that there's no other justification, it would be wrong to stop that person. from doing that. You'd be stopping them from exercising
So
their
long as
agency.
this, I mean, if it's my private property, then I should be able to say, no, you can't cross my private property.
Yeah, sure. There might be some like overriding reason. Let's say you're like storing that
Right,
for like later usage
but the
or something
national
like that.
border is like not is public property, which is a contradiction as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, yeah, sure. But like this is what I'm saying essentially is that on my view, I'm not sure I would make such like delineations. It seems to me like what we're making out borders and whatnot is we're making out areas where there's a certain place of force and authority that's used there. And so be that like it like a really large corporation, be that the government, or if you want to call it like some almost like cartel-like entity.
I just sent
or
Tyler
something
the
like that.
tug
We
of
have
war
this, like,
meme.
large state that enforces said rule of law. And I'm not sure that like them saying that they have control of said territory gives them the right to use physical force to remove others from
I usually
crossing
say
over that area. Yeah.
Might doesn't make right, but might makes reality, right? If I have the guns
Yeah,
that
exactly.
tell you to behave, you're gonna behave even if it's wrong.
Yeah, of course, right? But we can also say that there's something that's immoral about doing that to somebody. There's something that's wrong about doing that. And the thing that I'm getting at is like whenever we're talking about there being some slavery that happens because of the horrid labor conditions these people have to go through, we're almost completely ignoring what has to happen if we end up deporting them. So the moral wrong is still there.
Okay,
and we
so
also have the removed
argument,
agency of the individual in the
I
treatment.
could have.
like
I
all
was
this.
going to say this. It just
so
took
what you're saying is
her
there's this argument
an extra
that it's
5
like,
minutes.
oh, these poor factory conditions, and it's like, well, what do you think is going to happen when you forcibly make them go back to Venezuela? Like,
Yeah,
you
if
think
you
they're going to have like
take
much
them,
better
throw them in a
factory
van, forcibly
conditions?
go them back to exactly. Right. This seems a little bit more like slavery to me than them coming to the United States of America and working for what is an unfair wage.
Yep, I kind of agree. Yeah. All right.
What about the righties over here think here? Do y'all agree with that assessment from our libertarian-leaning friends?
I'm totally competing definition of slavery because everybody's saying my definition's bad or something, but it's like what definition are you using?
This was how I saw this going down, but now I kind of want to see what happens. So, answer.
I mean, I'd love to get into why the Civil Rights Act is akin to slavery. That's funny to me, but let's put a pin in that for now. I mean, I actually did want to say I was going to summarize that in the same way, Val, which is like, yeah, essentially, if you are going to deport someone and claim that their working conditions are akin to slavery, whatever you're deporting them, if it's from America, is almost definitely going to be worse working conditions, which would also be akin to slavery. But yeah,
I don't know that.
I want to see how y'all answer.
Hold on,
I'm going to argue for the mod.
That's not the reason that people get deported, right? The reason that people get deported is they came here illegally. They crossed a line they're not supposed to cross. As you know, we can say that it's public property, but we have a series of laws that we've agreed to that say you can't do that.
We agreed to slavery in the 1700s. So
true, and we changed that. So,
like, what do you
know?
Yeah, exactly.
So if you want to change,
so we recognize that the law
by all means,
does not
vote
equivocate to morality or ethics.
I didn't say anything about morality.
Right, but you're saying
I said that we've agreed.
You're saying that
it's
not
we
akin
ought to remove these people.
You're saying
that we ought to allocate some of our funds, our taxpayer dollars, towards removing these individuals from our country.
I feel like I agreed to like a bar fight outside, and then like a homeless guy just started beating up my opponent, and now I'm just watching them beat the shit out of each other.
Positivism is what you're making a case for.
Very clear.
But legal positivism would mean that you have to. We ought to beat slaves that run away from their masters.
Hold on. Let Grid finish, and then we're going to Tyler, and then if their answers don't satisfy me, I'm gonna.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not making a moral argument here. I'm not making such a claim. I'm saying that we follow the law. We have the law. The law is the law. If you break the law, there are consequences for breaking the law. So law is that you get deported. It's not. I don't believe that anyone.
Yeah, I mean, if you're making a descriptive, if you're making a descriptive argument against a moral claim, and so that doesn't follow. That's not an.
But I don't know. I don't understand.
Also, when it comes to descriptive arguments about the truth of the law, I think I'd take a legal fictionalism. Like, there's clearly things that can be contradictions or views of the law unless we accept their
Well,
truth. Like,
Grid's
okay,
just
the
confused because
law
you guys
is
started
like
talking about like the
like a
morality
fictional
of like working
entity, and
conditions
so
and what
to say
happens when
it's
you
like,
get deported when he
I don't really
wants
know
to
how
have a
that
more
justifies
deported
saying that we be like
focused
ought to
conversation.
do
I'm saying that
that.
I'm saying I don't believe that anyone is saying that it's moral to deport people because they're living like slaves here and send them back to Venezuela. I object to that characterization because I don't believe that's the truth. People are being deported from the United States because they came here illegally. They broke a law. That's why they're being deported. You made a moral claim. I did not. You said that it is
Right,
But
but you're
you're saying
countering
that
the
we
moral
ought
claim.
to, yeah, we
said
ought
no.
to remove them from the country
Let's go to Tyler.
because
and
they have
then
broken the law. We ought to remove them from the country.
I want to hear Tyler's response to this, and then based on what he says, I might just turn back to y'all, or I might jump in.
Or we could just
Okay.
ask the question: ought we deport people just because they broke
Well,
some law?
hold on, let him go. I'm going to hear him respond.
Yeah,
And then
so,
Yes, I believe that we should because I believe following.
Okay,
the
well, then
law
that's
well,
the
I think
moral claim.
it's more nuanced than that. But go ahead, Tyler. And
So,
then-
I'm
my
okay with it.
answer might
I'll
not
try on
satisfy
it.
you, Gibbs, because it's going to come from the left. So the reason that we have laws, the reason that we have taxation, the reason that we have civil rights legislation is because this is what the people voted on. Our morality, as a rural utilitarian, our morality is somewhat shared between the populace,
I don't
what
know,
they
sounds like a
want,
bunch of
and also
commie
respecting the
gobbledygook to me.
the rules.
Well,
I understand
I'm
you guys
slowly
don't like
subverting,
government, but
I know you don't like that, Fabian.
I see the best and most free way
It's
to
the Norm
run
Macdonald
society
joke.
is to give
I
everybody a
can't hear you,
say.
Tyler. I'm
Is to give
sorry.
everybody a say through the vote, and then we use the democratic process to elect representatives who set the laws of the country for us. Those laws being enshrined through previous legislation that we can change through further legislation by electing people to do that. We do it all the time. We did it with slavery. When slavery was no longer in vogue and morally wrong, as we saw as a majority, we got rid of it. So that's why all these things exist.
okay, all right.
So it's
Here's the,
so it's
hold on.
good
No,
if 51% of people agree.
I'm jumping in because
That's what the nation wants.
y'all both kind of like hit around it.
If
but
I put
think
10
y'all-
people in a room and 9 people vote
hold
for
on,
gang
hold on,
rape, does
hold
that
on,
make the gang
hold
rape
on.
right?
No, listen, okay, Andrew Wilson, we're not doing the fucking rape game. All right, listen.
I do like that.
I'm just saying,
The
9 out of 10
libertarian
people
brain rot
agree
is kicking
gang
in,
rape
guys.
is great.
Hold on.
I said at the beginning.
Hold on. Let me.
Dermatologist.
This is why this is the part y'all are missing. Yes, they have the democracy part. Yes, I know the libertarian viewpoint is going to not like that. The issue that you're missing is not just the if they voted, right? It's actually the agency that you just referred to. This is the problem, right? So say first off, you have the people who are trafficked here, sex slavery. Obviously, they don't have agency. They have to give up their agency literally to their literal body if they're giving up sex slaves to the coyotes and all these other people. Two, you have all these indentured workers, like especially in places like California where they do give them things like driver's license. What is happening there is actually they're taking away their agency in a backwards sort of way. So they're giving them their license. They're giving them this quasi gray area of citizenship where, if the Republicans ever gain power, since you broke XYZ law, which I know y'all don't agree to, but we live in the nation of laws, and since that was a democratically elected process, and that's the process we follow, they have to follow this law. So they give them this quasi gray area where you go, you have your driver's license. You can live in our sanctuary city, but if you ever move from this area or to an area that's Republican held, or if you ever move to an area and break a law in a Republican area, or if the Republicans gain power, they're going to come in and they're going to deport you, and it won't matter that you can pay a little portion of taxes here, or you can pay you have your ID because you're not actually a citizen, and we're going to pretend that we're giving you all these benefits, and we're going to do it at the taxpayer's expense. There's the second part of the slavery. So it's like they've made them beholden to them, and they've taken away their agency.
Can I ask? Do you believe the intention is to keep them this way? If so, why are the Democrats continue? Well, why would the Democrats continue to try to fight for a pathway to citizenship if that was the case?
Well, because it's twofold, and we can look at it here in the United States as well. And Fabian, you brought this up already with the welfare. The welfare is the same sort of system.
You take the money,
the money from one, you put them into a dependency trap. So they're even doing this at the expense of their former voters because they know there's a bigger Latin base, and soon Latins will make up over 50% of the American population, as opposed to the African Americans are only 13%. So now they're giving away the welfare that they had been giving to the African Americans in some cities like Chicago, and that's why you're seeing backlash against people like in Chicago for some of these illegal immigrants getting those benefits like these housing and all these things they're promised. It's because guess what? You're taking your dependency trap away from one group and enslaving another group with it. That's kind of the thing that's going down.
No, but what
Yeah, I
what do
mean,
you
from an
believe the
objectivist
motivation behind this
perspective,
is exactly? Other than like, because look,
Well,
let me
power.
explain
It's
that. Okay,
power.
I'm a dumb. Let me explain it as if I was like a dumb progressive liberal in the Bay Area, as if I was one of those. Okay, so when
yeah, you're
you
not in the Bay
see,
Area.
I
Is what
am
you're
the Bay.
saying?
I am the Bay Area. That was the
Yeah,
joke.
that's the joke.
Okay.
Yeah. If you were to come across a average Bay Area person here and say, why are you advocating for driver's license? Why are you advocating for allowing these people to work, allowing them to get on benefits, lifting them up, sanctuary cities, any of these things? Not a single one of these people is going to say, because I want to put them in the dependency trap of the welfare state. The reason they want to is be like, hey, I have compassion for these people and their families. They might have anchor babies here. I want them to be able to operate within the system. They're paying into these
So just
systems. They
answer
should.
that story.
You
Right.
just described
Well,
how
so-
Democrats are
Hold on,
useful
but
idiots
wait,
well,
versus
hold
useful
on.
slavery.
That's
Right.
exactly
So
what this
like,
is. They're useful.
is the
I feel
idea
like
that
you're
there's
one
this
of you
like
guys at
clandestine?
times,
Is
but-
this like a clandestine
Hold on.
Democrat
I-
agenda
Stop being
to?
such a
They're
boomer.
trying to respond
You're Gen X.
more so to the
You'll be
like,
all right.
prescribed motivation. But even like so, I think like the people who choose to move here are choosing to make that risk on their own. No, like if we're acknowledging their agency, they choose to make that risk. I don't think that we're putting them in a
Usually,
trap
some are
of-
sex trafficked.
Yeah, some of them are sex trafficked. I was going to address that at some point. I don't think that anybody here is in favor of sex trafficking or not rescuing people who are
Yeah.
sex trafficked, and so I'm not sure that that's going to be a major point of contention. But for like the cases that we are talking about, they do choose to make the choice. Like they choose to get a driver's license. They don't have less agency now that they can legally operate a motor vehicle. They just
Well, no,
can
you
now
do.
do that
you do.
thing.
You do
You
because
do
now.
have less agency now
Yeah, let me give you an example
no,
how you would have less agency because you've done this now, right?
versus not having.
Yeah,
Well,
so,
well,
okay.
well, that-
So if you have no documentation and you have or fake documentation, say you get
Okay.
pulled over and it's good enough in your Texas, okay? Guess what? The officer might let you go. They're gonna catch you, or they were catching and releasing you, under Biden,
It's very
right?
unlikely
But hold
that
on.
you're going to
But now,
slip through
if
with
you're
like
in
the fake documentation, but
If in California, if you have a legit ID and they run it in the system, now in Texas, we actually look to see if you're a legal citizen or not when they run your ID. And if you have a California ID and it comes back not as a citizen, now you're straight to ICE. So you've now guaranteed
Texas seems
you have
pretty
less
fucked up for
agency.
doing that.
Wait,
I
but
mean, it's
Gibbs,
pretty
fucked
Gibbs,
up for
the
doing
example
that. I'm
you
not gonna
just
lie,
gave.
but they probably don't have a fake
Hold on.
ID.
Well,
They're
hold on.
probably
Who's
not
giving you
trying
less?
to break the
Who's
rules
giving you
law
less
like that.
agency? The one that's entrapped you, or the one, or
I'm
the
not
one that's
sure.
just following the
Wait,
rules?
Val,
So-
please, because
so
Gibbs,
what-
the example
yeah,
you
go ahead,
just no,
Soto.
yeah, the example you just give was, oh, they're keeping them in these sanctuary cities and saying, oh, here's this license, but if you ever go out, you'll never, you're gonna get arrested by these Republican people. But now you're saying like that is what happens, so it is less agency. Like I'm a little confused as to
That's
what
my
the
point.
mechanism. Well, yeah,
Okay.
you're saying like they're giving these licenses out not because they want these people to have more training for the driving they do and drive without a license. They're not giving them out because they want them to be closer to a citizen so that they can get into these benefits, have more
then to be
identification.
able to, like, go to
They're
work or
something.
they're doing it to trap them in Democrat cities so they're scared to
Yes.
leave. Like what?
Well, yeah,
Can
because
I,
why?
can I,
I'll give
can
you
I
another
actually
reason. The
go on this,
census.
Admiral Gibbs? So Admiral Gibbs,
Go
I
ahead.
think one of the points that I brought up was labor unions, and I think this is a great example to kind of showcase the psychological trap and the way in which Democrats are useful idiots. So Democrats will often believe the most insane thing, which is that they think that they are fighting corporations, despite the fact that they are the party of large corporations and banks, and they are the ones that are against the worker and small businesses and freedom and liberty. And labor unions and their support for labor unions and our NLRB and regulations is a great example of this, because Democrats will vote for for laws that require you be in a labor union, or for strengthening on the NLRB and things of that nature, thinking that what they are doing is they are supporting workers' rights. But everyone that is a large corporation knows that the NLRB and labor unions benefit large corporations and make it so that their job is actually easier. So, for example, in 2022, when there was all of those walkouts and things that GM was going through, GM knows that as a large corporation, what they were able to do is work with the NLRB to get contracts with the the American Auto Union. Is AUW, I can't remember. UAW, United Auto Workers.
Yeah, you do not.
Yeah.
Auto workers.
Right. And so what they can do that small businesses can is take a team of lawyers and take their importance to the economy, because of like the amount of GDP and things that they're producing, and they can negotiate with the NLRB, and this allows them to get stable contracts where they don't have to worry about the stability of their workers and things like that. And so the labor unions, while those things presumably strengthen workers' rights, what it actually does is it strengthens large corporations. And I think when you understand how the system actually works with liberals, and I mean that like a communist, right? Like I don't mean that like a conservative. I mean that like fucking
like
neoliberal.
liberal, like
Right, like you
live
get
like a
it.
globe.
Yeah, right. Like I mean that in like the most insulting, like Okay, who is this person that is coming in and their audio's all fucked up?
The first. Don't worry. We'll get it. Hold on. Go ahead. Finish out your thing.
Okay.
We'll let her finish
Yeah,
the thing.
and so I think the situation can very similarly play out when it comes to the pseudo rights of driver's license, sanctuary cities, and things of that nature, where the left is like, yes, we're voting for Democrats because these people deserve a pathway to citizenship. These people deserve they deserve to be Americans just like us. And corporations and Democrat politicians and billionaire donors and things like that love playing this game of, oh, we'll give you welfare, we'll give you your driver's license, we'll give you, and we'll sprinkle this carrot, we'll drag this carrot in front of you, but we won't actually get anything done on DACA. We won't actually get anything there. All of a sudden a few senators and 20 congressmen are going to like back out at the last minute, and even though they're the politicians that we lobby and we've already bought and paid for. And what ends up happening is you're in this constant liminal space where you have a dependency on the very people that you're supposed to be voting for. You have a dependency on this external locus of control. Instead of moving in your own rational self-interest based off of your values, you become dependent upon the sanctuary city that you're in, or the Democratic politicians that keep sprinkling welfare at you and keep sprinkling opportunities at you and giving you just enough to have your support, to have your voice. And then some of you will get citizenship. Some of you will get, your asylum status, and 4 years later you'll get citizenship and things of that nature. But there is a difference between what the average Democrat thinks they're voting for and what liberals in the halls of power are actually instituting for immigrants. They don't see these as these wonderful people that we need to help. Okay, these politicians don't give a fuck about immigrants coming into this country. They care about their corporate donors, and they care about the fact that big business likes using cheap labor that is in a vulnerable position.
Yeah, so I guess this goes back to my original thing where this kind of creates this dichotomy. Let's say all this is true. Let's say every politician doesn't actually want to grant amnesty. They fake these bills. They know they won't pass. They back out at the last minute. If this is the case, then the Democrats are useful idiots insofar as they have two options before them. One person is on their face presenting a pathway to citizenship and saying, if you support these communities, you should vote for me, which makes perfect sense. And the other says, I'm going to terrorize and deport these people to the extent of everything I can do with the wrath of God. And so I guess like even if all of this Machiavellian like corporate donor stuff was true, the fact that you're calling them useful idiots when there's only two options, and one of the options is on their face saying all the things that they want to hear, and on their face also presenting bills that get you to there but are only really getting blocked by Republicans and not the Democrats pulling out every single time. I'm not sure I understand what the impetus behind this is.
One sentence. You're a useful idiot because you think that there's only two choices.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I get in for a second? Because I'm gonna be the like weird person on the left who's gonna say the liberals thing. And if it is the case that we're talking about like Democrats being in favor of slavery in the sense that like you have this dependency upon them, which is also the powers which tell you what you're supposed to do and what the rules of which you're supposed to obey by are. If we're talking about something like that, then like yeah, Democrats want you enslaved in the same way that like people who run corporations want you enslaved, in the same way that I think also Republicans want you enslaved. I don't think that's going to be like a large symmetry breaker between any of them. And so like yeah, as Fabian would be saying, there's like there isn't two options here. But whenever we have the option between like one of these groups of people being like, I think they should have like welfare states and they should have to like compete in this never-ending game of capitalism against each other, where also we're going to be trying to instruct people from the day that they grow up about how they should compete within it. Like, in that sense, like there's the slavery on both ends. I don't
Capitalism
really see like.
is liberty and freedom. Capitalism is the height of liberty.
Let me
Do
let me
you
go
think
to
the way that
hold on.
Okay,
do you
can I
think the
just-
way that it's
Yeah, go
currently
ahead. Let's go
run
to-
by corporations is the height of liberty and freedom?
Well, hold on.
No, of course
We'll
not.
come back. We're gonna come back to
No,
that.
okay.
Let's
That's
go
the
to
capitalism.
let's go to
Okay.
grid here.
Yeah,
Let's go
we're
to
gonna
I'm
far
not gonna be
field
I'm
here.
gonna be referring to capitalism, probably with a larger definition than you're going to be wanting to refer to capitalism.
Yeah, if you want to use the Marxist
hold on,
definition, that's fine.
hold on.
I'll say laissez-faire
let's-
capitalism.
Let's move
Yeah,
away
yeah,
from that for a second. Let's go to what grid and power, because I see them both trying to get grid. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, sure, that was interesting. Soy Pill. I owned a house in the Bay Area for a while. I technically I didn't live there, but I owned a house there. I visited there quite a bit,
What part?
and I understand that.
Get the guillotines, boys. It's a billionaire.
I know, right?
What
And-
part were you
and I
in? Do you mind me asking? I'm
kind
just
of
curious.
understand the mentality that you're talking about, but I also understand that vast communities of people who came here legally are really infuriated by the very actions you're talking about, by this I don't know, like I don't think it's a healthy thing to just grant people citizenship.
Right.
or
So
grant
no, you're
them
not wrong.
driver's licenses or granting them whatever. I don't think that's necessarily a healthy thing for the community. And maybe I don't know. I'm sure that there's some study somewhere that Tyler probably is like ready to throw out at us because that's what he does. I don't do that. But it's weird to hear the justification for this be, well, it's just more convenient.
No, so it's not just more convenient.
easier for everyone.
So I do want to address what you're saying, Grid, because one, this is
Sure, yeah,
absolutely
please.
true. But you
Please
can
do.
talk to
And I'm
any
not- look, I'm
any
not
of the
coming
immigrants
at
in
you,
this
man.
in this
I'm just trying to
place.
understand. I'm sorry. I'm not coming at you. I
No, I know.
am really trying to understand why you think this is a good thing, and I'm trying to be much shorter about it than
Sure.
Scott. Scott was perfectly correct.
Right.
Like, I'm going to be honest, Scott. You've lost weight. Your mind is sharp as a fucking razor, man. Like, I'm amazed at how clear and sharp you are. So
Thank you.
you're a
Yeah, so-
force to
Got my
be reckoned-
autoimmune disease
you
under
were-
control,
You were badass
thanks.
before, but you're a force now, man. So Scott was perfectly correct. I don't want to take anything away from his argument. I just think it was a little esoteric, and I'm trying to get more down in the trenches a little bit
Right.
with Soy Pill.
Gotcha.
And I
No,
just
so-
want to understand
no.
why you think it's a good thing.
I'm trying to explain this. So the idea that immigrants who see illegal immigrants kind of getting what they got without going through all the process and being upset by that makes perfect sense. I mean, you'll see that even with people like who were granted amnesty by Reagan, who now feel that way about illegal immigrants. Now, whether or not they feel valid for that is up in the air for me. I don't really care if they're like, hey, fuck, you got mine. My problem is this. There are, I mean, Tyler will say the bigger number. My understanding is there are 11 million illegal immigrants in this country. A lot of them, I think 70-80% of them are working in the workforce. And if we're going to do something about this, like, we talk about, hey, this could put a strain on the economy. This can undercut wages. This can be slavery conditions. It makes the most sense to me not to deport them, because my understanding is the cost to deport them is in the hundreds of billions of dollars to round up, track all these people down and get them out. Because yes, they broke
I'm
the
not
border
sure
law.
about that.
It doesn't necessarily make so much sense. They are already entrenched in these communities in so many places. They have kids that are legal immigrants because of the citizenship, birthright citizenship. And at this point, it does not make sense economically. It does not make sense morally to me, just in terms of like splitting families apart, to do mass deportations. What makes sense to me is let's find a way for these people to do everything they can to follow the law, which is get a tax number, pay their taxes, and work within the system, which will get rid of the employee abuses. But if you notice, a lot of these bills, so I think they introduced one in July this year. They introduced according to Fabian, these are all, smoke and mirrors to just say, hey, they're never going to pass. Fuck you, useful idiot. But if they were to pass, they also come with tighter border restrictions, because you can't just grant amnesty to everyone and keep a border as lax as it sometimes is, because that means you're going to get much people coming in. Oh, next wave of amnesty, next wave of amnesty, right?
A little bit of clarification here.
Yeah.
So you're saying that everyone in the country right now, you're cool with like some program to have get them to citizenship.
To be
But
clear,
no
not
more.
every
No more.
single person.
Take the border
Obviously,
off,
there
shut
are
it down,
violent
do the Reagan
criminals,
thing,
sex
no more.
traffickers, like, any of those people. I think it's totally valid to kick these people out. They're like already shouldn't be here, and they're making
Everyone
the
that's
place
not
worse.
here, everyone that's not a bad person
Nobody's
that's
gonna
here
say like don't touch the
illegally,
criminal.
Yeah.
they can.
The vast
they-
majority of
they-
people
they-
here who are already entrenched in these communities, working and contribute like
What would you
like
consider
four.
entrenched in the community?
Right, so like their kids go to school here, speak English, how like are legal citizens, are working, like you've got a whole family of people that operate outside of maybe
People
one of
do
these
that.
factories or any of these. Sorry.
Yeah, people can do that after a month. I don't consider that entrenched.
Right. So when I say
So, like-
entrenched, having a baby here that goes through the school system and a family here, like if you're here and you've been here for like a month and you overstayed a work visa or you just hopped the border, like I understand turning these people back, throwing them back over the border. That
Where do you draw
probably
the
makes it
line?
much.
Just curious.
I think if you look at the bill itself, there were certain time requirements of like how long you've been here, whether or not you have family here. Like, yeah, like there's the thing.
They're here
the reason-
illegally,
It's
so how do we
arbitrary.
establish that?
It's arbitrary because he has a
Well-
contradictory philosophy. Like it's
Well, hold on, let me finish, and you can tell
whatever,
me what
whatever
I'm
number
contradicting.
works.
Well, no,
Right,
not
right,
necessarily,
whatever
right?
number you wanna
Because
say.
if you look at like the Obama numbers of like, yeah, everyone calls him deporter in chief. Like a lot of these things are just like, hey, you're showing up at the border, trying to cross illegally, get out, right? Most illegal immigrants are overstayed visas. So if it's someone that's been here for like, yeah, a couple weeks
Well, it
and you
was-
have a
it was
deportation
that. It's
order.
not that anymore. That's important.
Not
to note.
anymore?
It
Is that
used to
that's
be
post
that.
23? Is that changed
Yeah.
post?
I
Okay.
mean,
Yeah.
Might
Regar-
be like-
regardless. If there are people like I don't know exactly, I can't tell you exactly like, oh, it's a year and 1 day, a year and 2 days, but like there are pretty clear like if you brought this to me on a case by case basis, I'm not saying this is how we operate this, but if you showed me like, hey, here's someone with like 3 kids, they're 14 years old each, and they all have like legal citizenship and are working, and their parent has been in this community for 20 years, it doesn't really make sense to spend the money to kick them out.
Isn't that how the system
Yeah,
is set up to
that's
work
gonna be
anyway?
like-
They go have these here, they get arrested, have these hearings. If they have some tie to the community, that's considered. But even if they have a tie to the community, but they haven't been here very long, then they're eligible for
Well,
deportation.
more or
and
less,
isn't
but the problem is I'm arguing against
it-
mass
see, that's-
deportations.
so now I need an understanding. What do you want to change? If it
Can I
already
get in real
works
quick?
like that,
I
before,
wanna offer-
what do you-
Tyler.
I want to offer
Yeah.
pathways to citizenship so that they can pay more taxes and not get abused in workplaces.
There's a pathway
More
to
Tyler, bro.
citizenship already.
He's a
what
victim of his
you're saying is
note-taking
basically
skills.
you're saying that just every. I mean, what I hear, and I could be wrong. That's why I'm kind of pushing you on this a little bit.
Mhm.
What I hear is because I say so, then so it shall be.
What do you mean, like with the morality, or what do you mean?
You haven't made
Because
a moral argument.
because you just have this arbitrary
Just a claim.
like I want it to be different than what it is right now, but the way that I want it to be different than it is right now is the way it is right now.
No, so right,
You just
would
don't
you
like the
would you
way it is
agree that
right
there are illegal immigrants that are undercutting American workers' wages by being paid sub?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I don't like that. I don't like, one, that it hurts the American worker, and I don't like, two, that it's abusing the illegal immigrant. I think that those people should be
I think
naturalized,
all
right? So
425 people that were arrested September the 5th in Georgia at the Hyundai plant, every single one of them should be sent back to South Korea.
right. So again, I don't know the exact facts. It seems like some of these people were here legally, but let's just say they were all illegal and they were all just shipped in from like the South Korean company. Yeah, that would make
Well, they
sense.
wouldn't have been
These
arrested
are
if
not
they weren't.
entrenched in community people. These are, like you said, they're not here to make a life in America. These are people who were abused in Korea, lied to perhaps, and then abused here as well, right? So that does not make sense to me. What I'm talking about is the vast majority of the illegal immigrants who are working here, like, in the system, who are potentially getting paid under the table, not paying taxes, maybe using a TIN or an SSN that they stole from someone so that those persons can get their
We
Social
have
Security
the system
benefits.
for that. We have immigration court. We have a pathway.
It's not
Well, you
very
may not
robust,
like
and
it,
it's
you may not
there's a reason
consider
why
it.
there's still 11 million illegals. A lot of these people want to be
Recently,
naturalized, but they do not have time,
I
effort,
mean,
or
you
like
may not
actual.
like the system, but the
Yeah.
system exists. So I'm trying to understand what you want changed about the system, because
So,
you say we need.
For
to put
example,
this in-
Reagan was able to
He
do
just
this
wants to
mass
steal more
amnesty
taxes
thing.
so we can do it.
Right. Well, that's what I'm hearing.
We
I'm
just-
hearing what
Yes,
I'm hearing.
I
we
do-
need to
Make
steal
it
more money
bigger.
from you
We need
so
to
that we
make
can
it
have more
bigger and
judges,
better
so that we
and-
can get more people to get their citizenship.
Yeah,
so they
Fabian,
can vote
I don't like the
Democrat.
framing, but you're
All the
100% right.
fucking
Yes, I do want to put more
crazy
money
amounts
into
of
it.
money that you're throwing towards tracking all of these people down, or just trying to live their life, and throw that towards.
I would rather have
immigration
ICE
courts.
agents.
Hold on,
Every
hold on.
single little
Hold
bit
on.
of that.
Sitting around eating
Hold on,
donuts
let me
and
go.
drinking
Let me go to Tyler
Infinitely
here.
better idea.
Well, I just want to ask you, Val, just because you're saying that, right? You're saying
It's
all
kind
of
of a fair
millions of dollars.
argument.
Okay, interesting. It's interesting,
I'm
right?
being a
I
little
like.
tongue in cheek,
Give,
clearly.
I mean,
I
give it
would.
back, but
Well, sure, but I mean, the argument
Being a
would
little
be.
tongue in
I
cheek.
mean, the argument that the Trump admin would be is if we're saving money elsewhere, like I don't know, and with Doge, where you mean the government efficiency, the money that
That
was
didn't
being.
seem
Hold on.
incredibly successful. From
Sure.
my
I mean, I don't know.
observation.
We'll see, but we'll see how it's going.
But
But like the argument that he's
yeah,
made
I
is
mean,
pro
yeah,
Trump,
we might have
pro.
some disputes on
oh,
that,
the,
but like,
oh,
I
the
don't know,
argument.
neither of
The
those
ar-
seem to be getting around very well
yeah,
together. So
yeah,
Maybe
but
the
just hear me out. Hear me
your
out. The
mic down
argument.
a little bit. It's kind of breaking up or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, your
it's
mic's
got a little
clipping a lot,
high.
Val.
But yeah, but
Oh.
here's the argument that like I would that the Trumpies would make, and then I'm gonna give it to Tyler, and then y'all can object to both or whatever we just say here. Is basically with Doge and cutting all these programs, they're going to save money. Also with programs like the new gold card, the Trump card, where they pay $5 million and they've already had 50,000 people. The money from that and this other money that's already been stolen, Fabian, it's already stolen, right? Yeah, and the terms of libertarian.
You can give back stolen money,
Sure,
motherfucker.
you
You
can,
don't
but
have to spend it.
But yeah, but
probably
no
should.
government. But listen, no
You probably
government
even
ever
should give back stolen money.
Listen, I would like a check in my bank account too, but that's never going to happen. You know it, I know it. But what the Trump admin is saying is we're going to take this money and we're going to use it along with other money that we're going to, build to get rid of these people, and life's going to be better, right? Because XYZ. So it's not like, oh, they're just spending all this money. Like, it's like if we took away all the welfare and they got rid of them, then you wouldn't have this excess. Now, would you? But let's go to Tyler, because that's the number one expense.
All right. So I got a lot. I've been kind of refining my notes and sharpening them as I waited this last 40 minutes. The reason I like laws is the same reason I like the dictionary.
Yell more.
Because
Yell louder.
am I yelling?
It's clipping a
No,
bit.
I'm saying yell more.
Oh,
Oh.
no,
I'm
I
saying
don't
yell.
No. You guys are having a good conversation. I'm enjoying it.
You
I
just be
don't
like,
wanna
shut
interrupt.
up. I have something to say.
No. You guys are doing.
I believe
enjoyed
in
it.
you.
I enjoyed it. I didn't want to interrupt. So, but I had some time. So the reason I like laws and rules is the same reason I like the dictionary, because they provide some sort of set in stone rules and structure. Now, if you look at the dictionary definition of slavery, it is not when the government slightly oversteps on your rights, like the civil rights legislation or taxation. It's when they put you into compelled labor, forcing you against your will. What the democracy does.
Taxation. Got it.
Yeah, well, hold on. What democracy does is gives us a process where everyone gets to voice their own personal. A bunch of individuals get together and get to voice their own personal opinion, and we take the majority. When you participate in this game, you also
Gang
have to
rape. Got it.
that sometimes you're going to lose that. Gang rape's illegal because we decided that's a bad thing as a society through our laws and legislation. Something that
I
without
don't know,
a
man.
government,
9 out of 10 people agree gang rape's great.
yeah, something that without a government. So at the end of the day, though, even if you're a minarchist, I think it's called a minimal anarchist of some sort, you can maybe agree that if there is a single function of government, it's to protect our borders. Maybe. Like say,
It
Yeah,
is in
a
the
night watchman
Constitution.
state or a minarchist would believe that protecting borders, national defense treaties,
Yeah.
and maintaining the monopoly on the judicial process and the
yeah.
law.
So if we made an asylum,
That's what they would
treaty-
agree. That's
Yeah.
not me. So I don't care.
I'm just
what they
saying
think, they're wrong.
hypothetically. Yeah, I'm just saying hypothetically, if you're giving the government anything, the first thing that anyone would give it is border protection. Even as an anarchist, it would be okay. Secure the borders. Let us do what we want over
Yeah,
here.
yeah. I'm happy and on borders for that very reason, because I feel like there are other things we have to tackle first. Yeah.
Yeah. But that being said, if we have an asylum treaty with another nation, that asylum treaty has very strict criteria, and not only are we ignoring that criteria and letting people in that don't qualify, but when we realize they don't qualify, we're failing to deport them, is that not government failing its basic structure of protecting its
Well, when you say protecting its people, you're implying that like there's some massive detriment to having illegal immigrants here, which I would reject holistically. I think the biggest thing you could point to is that, well, the problem is that you're baking in this idea that like this is like the invasion argument. It's like this is an invasion force.
No, you're talking about violence. I'm saying protecting the rights, will, and voice of the people. The people agreed to the criteria of the treaty. So if you go beyond the treaty, you're going beyond what the voice of the people made your mandate. So you're protecting your
Contracts
ignoring
are
the will
not
of the people.
valid. Contracts are not valid if the contract requires the violation of human rights. It's an invalid contract. There's my argument.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is that what asylum is if somebody's human rights are being infringed, we open our borders and let them in. But if we find out 80% of people using the credible fear clause are actually just here for economic opportunity, and they're abusing that specific asylum system to get in, Would it not be the primary role of the government to remove them, to respect the people's wishes in that asylum legislation and
If
treaty?
the
I don't
people,
give a fuck about the people's wishes.
yeah,
Again,
wait,
9 out of 10
Fabian
people
would
prefer
disagree
gang rape.
totally, and I would disagree on the fact that like if the people are voting for mass deportations, which was what happened when Trump got elected, then yeah, of course. And if the people are voting for amnesty, which is what the Democratic politicians that are voted on by Democrats are proposing in the Senate, then of course that's what they want. Like, why does it matter whether or not you're talking about the definition of a country and the people that exist in it is, I think, completely irrelevant. You got to look at what the parties are proposing.
I agree.
I
I'm
don't think it's
framing the
completely
argument.
irrelevant.
I was
do
trying to
think
frame
that
the
we
argument to
need
get a
to work
concession
within
out
a
of him.
framework of the law.
Okay.
I mean, you just mentioned changing the laws, but you don't want but it seems like you don't want those laws enforced. And
Right. Well,
that-
this is
that
like Fabian's
becomes-
point, right? Like, not you have 9/10 of the people in the room, with the gang rape or whatever. But like here, it's a
Yeah, and I'm
majority
sure
of
that-
voters
I'm
voted
sure
for
that
Trump, and a
Genghis
bunch of them
Khan-
didn't vote for Trump.
look,
A bunch of them don't want
I'm
mass
just gonna say-
deportations.
I'm going to say that
Yeah.
Genghis Khan probably had 9 dudes in a room, and they
What?
all voted for gang.
That's why democracy is evil. You got it. You're getting
I'm
it.
just saying.
You're
I mean,
getting
I'm
it,
sure
buddy.
that's exactly
Yeah,
what
you're
happened.
getting it soy pilled. Come
Wait,
on, buddy.
Fabian, what's your preferred form of government? Is it anarcho-libertarianism or
Anarcho-capitalism.
anarcho-capitalism?
Yeah, I'm an ANCAP as far as we're just
Okay,
talking
I
about
didn't want to get
state
into it. I was just
politically.
curious. What's the last?
But
evil
I consider
version?
myself an anarcho.
Do a little housekeeping real quick. Malakat's supposed to be here, and let's see if their mic is working now. And our other individual Val had to drop out. They are feeling ill, so they were filling anyway. So thanks for filling in for as long as you could.
I heard their keyboard and their mouse. They weren't feeling ill. They were losing. They were on a losing streak.
Nah,
in the
they
game.
messaged me literally like 30 seconds after the panel started. They're like, "Hey, just so you know, I'm not feeling good. I might have to drop." I will give them credit for that. So they were enjoying the conversation for sure. They were surprised that y'all were
We
agreeing.
got kicked back down to bronze league, and they're like, "Hold on, I gotta focus."
Yeah, something like that. No, they were very surprised that y'all were agreeing on stuff. So yeah. But Malakat, is your mic working now? Yeah.
You're muted.
All right. Well, I'll wait till they message me again. Okay. We'll get back to it then. Let's go back to what we were talking about. Sorry about that little housekeeping update. It's
That's all right.
always fun these be streaming. Sometimes things work out real organized. Sometimes they don't. But we're moving on. Yeah, I do find this interesting that are you denying the like what's it called, the entrapment kind of theory here? Like, is that because originally, Fabian, you seemed like you were pretty on board with Soy and Val in your position, but then after I brought up the entrapment, how it's the same as the welfare, then it seemed like you softened some on it.
I haven't softened or changed my opinion. In fact, I was the first one to bring up the welfare dependency trap as one of the 10 arguments that I
Sure,
gave
yes,
in my intro.
I understand that. That's why I was comparing the other one to that.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, it is a dependency trap in a certain way. But there's a difference between discussing the state's rights violation of humans' autonomy versus the systems and institutions that are designed to use the law to abuse and psychologically move people in towards a dependency trap. Like these are two different things. At the individual level, right? Deporting someone who has not violated anyone's bodily autonomy, right? So if you are an illegal immigrant that has not done any property damage and has not attacked anyone in any way, shape, or form, the state is the aggressor if they deport this person. I don't give a fuck about some stupid fucking law that says that if you cross an imaginary line, that makes you bad.
Is
That's just
trespassing a bad thing?
You can't trespass on public property because public property is already a violation of human rights by the state.
But all that border property
this
is
is
owned by
second-
private property, right?
If you go across, if you
winning on
trespass, if you trespass against someone who has property on the southern border, right, private property, and that's a property crime.
That's
Right,
an
like,
imaginary line to me.
No, it's not. It's a line that has a first user principle with one owner. There's a logic. It has been intersubjectively communicated that this
You don't
is
think
their
a
property.
town can own property?
No,
Okay.
property can only have one owner. Period.
got you.
Anytime you say property has more than one owner, then it becomes contradictory because what property is the exclusive right to utilize that material as you see fit. So public property is a contradiction because it claims to be ethical, but it is conflict inducing. because it's a scarce resource. And the moment people wish
Guys, public parks are evil and
means,
immoral,
public
and
property has no
sharing, yeah,
means
sharing
of
is a
settling the
violation of
conflict
human
that
rights,
it
Michael
created.
Lob.
Whereas
So
Yes,
private property
God.
is conflict reducing. It's an ethical system.
In your system, if somebody went, a private company or entity went and bought all of the land, like a miles of the entire southern border across the country, and put an armed private military there, and any illegal immigrants stepped foot on it, they shot them, that'd be cool?
Well, that wouldn't be following the gentleness principle, right? So you don't get to just shoot people just because they happen to stumble upon your property.
Okay,
But
well,
they have
shooting
the
is the
right-
end of
They
the...
have the right. Yeah, they have the right to say, get off my property. And then they say, no, I'm going to cross your property anyways. And they go, get off my property. I'm going to fucking shoot you. And then they go, fuck you. I have a right to be here. Then, yeah, shoot
What
him,
about
kill him. I don't care.
landmines? Should I be able to put landmines on my private property? Just out of curiosity.
All right, here's where the
Come on,
derailing,
If
the
you're
derailing
writing
is here, guys.
landmines,
This
I wanna
is,
steer this
then
back
that
a little
becomes
now
an
we're just going to
aggressive
talk
act.
about
This is
stupid
happening.
libertarianism.
I'm
And
just
I'm going to bring up
curious.
the civil rights thing because at
Well,
least
yeah,
that's a
I
funny
just had to know,
conversation.
man.
This is absolutely fascinating. So I understand Scott's viewpoint on it. I don't actually disagree with the public versus private property principle. I've always wondered why we have the government invested in so much
Mhm.
land, and that doesn't
Well,
seem
just think
like
of it
a
this
really
way.
good thing.
I think I can make this make a little more sense, right? When Oregon legalized or decriminalized drug usage, right?
Mhm.
A lot of
Based.
libertarians were super happy. They were like, "Oh my God, it's so
Mhm.
great! This is a win against the drug war." And I knew that it was going to be a problem. I knew that this wasn't going to turn out
Sure.
well, and it turned out so poorly that even Democrats reversed their position and are starting to return back to a certain aspect of the war on drugs.
normalcy.
And you go, well, what is the problem here? The problem here is public property. And the reason public property is the problem here is the moment that you decriminalize drug usage, well, now you have druggies at your fucking parks. You have druggies on the side of the road. You have this property that belongs ostensibly to everyone. And then you have families that are like, I don't want to walk out of my apartment and see people doing the
This will be a
fentanyl leak,
great
right?
conversation
Like, I don't want to see
because
that shit.
I have so where do you I
But if it
mean
was
I really
private,
want to talk to you
then
someday
you
about
could kind
like
of figure
free
that out.
use, free use roads, free paths across private property that are open to just anyone. I really want to dig into that. I don't think it's very useful in this particular conversation, but I'm
Yeah, I
fascinated
mean, the
by it.
topic is on slavery, so if you invited ANCAP to
Well,
talk
yeah,
about
well-
whether or not politicians support slavery, I'm going
Yeah.
to talk about ANCAP.
Because
shit.
now that we're like fully into libertarian brain rot, can we
Well-
go back to the civil rights being
What brain rot?
slavery?
So
Because
let's
I
do that.
actually really am
Let's-
curious about that
I
one.
wanna
Actually,
hear
before
about
we
that.
do that, I wasn't really. I still wanted to.
Another example of
I'm
Democrats
still trying to
supporting
understand
slavery. Let's
Bill's
go.
point of view here, and I don't understand what a long enough term of time is. I don't understand that. I don't know how we quantify that. Although
Sure.
apparently we do have a system in place that does that already. But
Let's say,
I'm
let's
gonna
just
let
say,
you
like,
fin-
I'll
I'm
just
gonna
pick
let
a
you
random
finish.
number.
Go
I
ahead,
have
Slade,
not.
I wanna-
Yeah,
hold on,
I'll just pick a
hold on,
random
real
number.
quick.
Let's just say it's like if
I
you're
wanna
here for
Tyler
less
to
than a
go.
year
I
and you
wanna
have
do
no,
the civil rights thing.
yeah, if
can
you're
only
here
hear
for less
one.
than a year, you have no entrenchments in the community, you don't have children here, you don't have family here, and it's just like, hey, you just came here to work and you overstayed your visa, get the fuck out. Yeah, okay, whatever. Like that's just an arbitrary thing I'm picking out of my ass, but like
2 years-
obviously you
2
could
years
draw a
good.
line there. Huh?
Yeah, 2 years you draw the line. They're
Yeah,
good.
like something reasonable where it's like clearly there's a difference where like someone like me or you could look at this and say this person is not just some guy that's been
So
here
why do you
like
wanna-
these like Korean
I
people.
don't know what
that
the
you're-
exact. I don't know what the exact terms are for people who enter illegally and then apply for citizenship and all of that. I didn't go down that specific well very deeply, but I do know that there's a system such a system
Immigration
in place.
laws
There are immigration lawyers.
retardedly complex.
There's all
by the
kinds
way.
of things.
Well,
that-
it's a very
that-
slow process, Grid, and just to put it into perspective, I think the
Well, I
amount
mean,
of people we
should it be a
naturalize
fast
legally,
process?
I think it should, right? Because if these people are coming here and they're willing to work, like why shouldn't they be paying the taxes and doing it legally? Why
Look
should
what we
they?
had
like-
about 2 weeks ago, where a person who came here and from another country, and they were given a job and given a CDL driver's license and a job driving a truck.
Are we talking
and
about the Indian guy who like did like an
dumbass
illegal
Tried
U-turn
to
or
do
whatever?
a U-turn on the highway and
Yes, it
killed
sounds
3
like it.
Americans.
Okay. So if you're
this is
arguing that
why.
I think we should make it easier to become a citizen is not, hey, people who can't drive should be given driver's license. I think the driving license standards in this country are way too lax, and anyone, legal immigrants included, should
No,
be given.
I'm saying that. Well, you said that they should just be able to come in and immediately go to work and immediately do all these things, and this is
No, I'm saying
exactly
the
what.
pathway to citizenship should not be so difficult. The reason I wanted to bring this up was I think the amount of people we naturalize completely, not illegal immigrants, like just people that came here to work, especially these very high skill people that like all these scientists I know in the Bay Area, it's like less than 1 million a year, which I do not think is enough given how many people are here who are working, like trying to make a better life for themselves, as you put it, and are actually like contributing massively to our infrastructure. Now, necessarily, a lot of these illegal immigrants are not these high skilled laborers. They're, like we said, construction, agriculture. But if they're already here, if they're already doing this, I wanted to make it as easy as possible to stop them from getting workers' rights abuses and pay into the system the way they're supposed to. That's all I'm saying. Not that they should be given driver's license like candy and they shouldn't be tested. I think there should be a good vetting process as well. I'm just saying it's way too difficult right now to naturalize people. There are paths, but it is not enough. And
I
as
feel like it
Fabian
should
so
be.
rightly put it, we should steal more money from people to make it easier.
Let's go.
Yeah,
All
I
right, here's
just
what
don't.
we here's
I don't hear a rationalization for it being easier. The stumbling block is I think it's hard for a reason. I don't know what that reason is, other than that we
Vetting.
want people to kind of like earn it almost, right? Like it's not something that's just handed out like candy in a supermarket.
Right, but the difference
but
is
what I hear, and that's what I
the-
hear you kind of saying is
well,
like,
Grid,
well, it
let
should
me
just
explain,
be,
right? Because
you know,
the
rubber stamp.
dichotomy here is not either we deport them all or we immediately make it as easy as
I'm not
possible to.
drawing
No,
that.
I know. I'm just letting you know because they're already here, because they're working, and because they are getting abused. I want them to have an easier path to stop that abuse. That is what I'm saying. Not it should just be easy. You come over the border, you immediately get a job, you're immediately naturalized. There might as well not be a border. I'm saying that there already are 11 million people here, if not more, if we're not counting. I know Tyler says it's a bigger number. If these people are already here, already working, and already being abused, we should,
Don't
as
tell
fast
Corey
as
that.
possible,
He'll
rectify
still-
the
he'll
situation
say
because.
that you're wrong.
let me
We
hold
need-
on, a little housekeeping. We're gonna go to Tyler,
Fine.
and then
Sorry.
and he's gonna go, and then I'm gonna let Malakat jump in with any thoughts so far, and then what we are gonna do right after that. So don't know anybody respond unless you say something outrageous. We're gonna go to the civil rights thing because I think we need to come back to that.
I need to know.
We gotta dive into that some. So go ahead, Tyler.
Soy and I are going to be on the same side for the civil rights thing, but let me address what you said, then I'll go to Scott real quick. So I kind of see your demand for change, and I get it, but you have to admit, until that change occurs, that every chance to deport somebody that has a judge-ordered deportation order is ignoring federal law and ignoring the will of the judges. And then we also see judges using their back door to help illegal immigrants escape that are already certified for deportation. One judge had 2 Tren de Aragua members living at his home. He gave them guns that were used in a shooting. I'd say it's a little bit more than just wanting them to stay here, because until that change you want occurs,
That's wild.
I know, right?
I haven't
They
heard about
are.
that one.
Yeah, I'll send you the link after. They are indentured servants at this point, is kind of the point we're arguing. I get your desire to change, but that change hasn't happened yet. So this is their current status. And I get also what you're saying. There's 11 million here. It's a pain in the ass to deport them. But again, I am a fan of the rules. We have all these laws in the books for a reason. And there's 17 million people waiting in line that did everything right that are now being put to the back line so we can let people come in here illegally. And that, to me, until you say no more illegals, we have to cut it off. Scott, I got something for you, too. This is a bone. This is an accelerationist bone that I think once you get into the
Not
practical...
accelerationist. My name.
First name, last name. I believe there was a judge sheltering gang members. I think this happened around the same time as the the Hannah Dugan case. It was briefly talked about, but he did have some sort of gang member in his house or something like this.
They get proper regulations, they're taxed the right way, they worker consumption and protection, and they're part of the welfare model to the full extent. That
Using
then puts
proper
onus...
in front of socialist shit doesn't...
Yeah, I'm just saying that then
argument
puts the
make.
onus on all of those systems to now...
What is
they
happening?
aren't going to these people because they're here illegally. That's what makes them this second-class citizen in my mind. Now they have access to all these things. That puts a massive amount of stress on these things, and it makes it so we have to reanalyze it. They're like saying, we can't kick out the people that are picking your strawberries because then you're going to pay somebody $15 an hour to pick strawberries, and they're going to have all these protections that we give all of our workers, and that'll just screw up the prices and cause inflation. All you're going to see
You're saying
then,
a
if
lot
we
of nothing.
when that happens, if we actually kick out all the illegals, then all these people are making $15 an hour, have all these worker protections. It makes the costs go up. Thus, the public now goes after all these regulations that are in place because they're no longer functioning because we no longer have that second class working.
Yeah, I don't want to violate the rights of millions of people based off of my ability to be a seer and predict the future.
I'm just saying it would cause an acceleration
That's
and
crazy.
pushback against a lot of things you don't like. Because currently we're skipping all those. All these people don't have access.
I'm also
to these
against accelerationism. That's why the channel name is Fabian Liberty. It's a spin on the Fabian
Thank you
Society.
so much,
in the
Alley Cat.
UK.
I appreciate
It would
that.
achieve
I'm
your
not an
goals in this
elite,
case, I feel like.
unfortunately. I can't wait till I'm a top
let's go to
1%
Malca
of
here.
that.
What
That'll
are
be
your
great.
thoughts so far?
Cool.
We're gonna have
Been
so
able
many
to keep
charity
up, and
streams
then
like
we're
you
gonna
wouldn't
go to the
believe.
civil rights thing. What are your
I'm
thoughts?
so sorry. I was trying to get through starting up my stream. But I kind of heard right now about protections of workers and things of that sort. And again, I apologize that I wasn't up to date. But if you want to give me a TDLR,
Yeah,
can
we
get
can just
on
jump
the
in. We'll just jump in the next thing. I think
That
might
was
be
for
easier.
Scott specifically. Yeah, that was your preference.
Yeah, yeah, that was kind of a back and forth. All right, so Scott, we'll come back to you in a second because I feel like Scott's about to hit us with some stuff that a lot of people are about to object to. So I'm sure you can start yelling. Then go ahead and tell us your civil rights thing.
Yeah, I don't think it's really that crazy or complicated of an argument. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 is obviously and patently a violation of human rights. Is there any argument against that? Does anybody have an argument against that?
Well, just to be clear, when you say violation of human rights, it's like you're saying it violates people's freedom of association because they can't choose to not associate. So I think obviously the argument against it, especially if you look at it in historical context, is if you as a single person wanted to, I think, by the way, this is going to sound crazy. I mean, this is your argument. But my audience is going to be like, are you seriously saying this? If you as a singular person said, I do not want to associate or do business with this person because of their race, that in isolation is probably fine, and violating that is like this, like, you know, okay, like I'm thought policing you, I'm not allowing to be racist. Like that's wild, right? Like, yeah, you're a bigot, but why is the state allowed to tell you not to be a bigot? That's crazy. The reason it exists in the way it does, though, is not because individual people are now like limited from this freedom. It's because entire swaths of the population were able to exclude an entire race of people from their business from this. So in not doing that, you're violating those people's freedom to exist in the society, and you need that protection for those people because of the historical context, not because they specifically want to violate your ability to associate with a racist person.
There's two things here, right? I don't necessarily care about the kind of like consequential analysis or via like a framing of history, but that's just like not true. Like the state was violating a lot of people's rights. And those aspects of the Civil Rights Act are perfectly fine, right? I have no issue with the federal government saying that insofar as the state exists, it shouldn't be, we shouldn't have Jim Crow laws or, the state mandated that. There was plenty of companies whose rights were violated by Jim Crow laws that wanted to do business with Black people, that wanted them, to end segregation because it was more profitable to do so. But this idea that there was these large swaths, completely freely associating, it's just bad economics. It's just a bad idea to exclude 13% of the population from your business.
No, it is. You're not wrong, but they still did this. I mean, have you heard of like sundown towns? Have you heard of like, a mandatory or non-regulated? Sorry, what's the term of segregation where it's like free association segregation or whatever? It's like, hey, we're just not going to hire Black people. Like this stuff absolutely happened, and this is the reason why with the gay cake thing.
Free to do that. Yeah, people should be
no,
free
you
to
should not be free to be a fucking bigot, like straight up.
Okay,
like,
so you're pro-slavery. So you agree with my argument. You're pro-slavery.
I don't like gay people. I don't like you because you're a white person. I don't want to associate you with you because you're a white person. That's saying the exact.
I would much rather know that. I would much rather know that, right? I don't want secret racists at the restaurant spitting in my food because they're not legally allowed to say that I don't want white people in my restaurant.
No,
but a big sign that says no cracker. Sorry, I almost said it. I forgot that's a Twitch thing.
No, it's a restaurant. It's a restaurant.
Right.
They just don't serve crackers.
It's talking about
We're
the
out of
menu
soup
item,
crackers.
right?
We're out of soup
Right,
crackers.
right,
All
right.
right.
Yeah, you got it, right? Like,
Logos.
I want to see that. And I want to know, like, okay, that restaurant's food probably a little too spicy for my white tummy. I'm gonna go to the next place. You know what I mean? And like, that's what I want.
Right, but
What
Fabian,
I don't want is secret racists that legally aren't allowed to discriminate, that then hate me, that I'm living amongst people that hate me. Like, if you hate me, tell me you hate me, and I'll make sure to freely associate with people who don't fucking hate me.
Fabian, the question though is, don't you understand that yes, it is technically a violation of your rights of association to say you can't discriminate against a black person in this business? I understand that. Okay, yeah, yes, okay, factually is, whatever. The point is, if enough people do this and enough of a community or an extensive part of that city, you are now doing that to black people, right? You are violating their ability to associate and exist in your society. And so, yeah, obviously, if we want to live in this perfect world where it's like
that right, yeah.
To violate the rights of other people,
says we don't want black people in our town,
yeah,
right? Then that black person can go live somewhere.
What if they
where they're
can't?
welcome.
Is the point, right? Like, if they already live in this town, now you're saying, okay, now we're forcing you to spend money to move. We're forcing you to excise from your school.
How many viewers you got right now?
212.
Okay, 212 people. Is there anybody in those 212 in your community that wants to live in a sundown town? Or would we go ahead and assume all 212
Fabian,
right now, just in your community, would be willing to move somewhere where black people are allowed?
Fabian, I don't know if you just don't know like the history of this, but like when people did this like associative racism, it wasn't like, well, we already have this pure white state and we're just going to like there's black people already in these places, or black people just trying to move and make a better life, and that's just like one of their only options because you can't just teleport wherever. You don't have unlimited bankroll to do whatever you want, and now suddenly a chunk of the country says you can't be here. That is, in some sense, I would hope that you would say, a violation of their autonomy because they are incapable of going other places.
Of course not. If it's their private property and they say you can't come here, then that's obviously not a violation of anyone's rights to exclude someone from their own private property.
So like if everyone in the country, or let's just make it a little more obvious, right? Let's say you live in a rural area and you do not have the funds to move into the big city. You literally cannot afford it. So you live on the outskirts of a town, and that entire town decides no black people at my business, and you're the black people that live on the outskirts, right? Now you do not have the option to move, and you've been excised from the ability to, this is like, in the same way you might, I would think you would be against like debanking, maybe you're for debanking, I don't know. You're now unable to exist. You can't buy food. You can't go to the doctor. Like these people who have private businesses that are integral pieces of your society are saying, nope, you're not allowed to exist in it, and you don't have the option to leave. How is that not a violation of your autonomy?
So first of all, it's not a violation of your autonomy to be forced to have other people enslaved to you, right? Like it's not a violation of your autonomy that the government doesn't step in and tell other people that they have to behave a certain way or else, right? That would be a violation of, like,
even if it kills you?
Insane.
Wait, why is
What do
this
you
any
mean, even if it
different?
kills
Hold
you?
on,
If you
hold on.
can't buy
There's
food,
hypothetical
if you can't
where,
buy
like-
food, if you can't go to the doctor, if you can't like...
Actually, Soy Pill's bringing up something I kind of touched on right just now. What's the difference between this and me landmining my land? Is that not an aggressive act? Like in my own definition?
Well,
Like,
landmining your land, right, is in such a way where
it's
your
my land.
property
Why do you
is
have to worry about them
inviting-
coming on it? I guess this is my argument that I'm making with this because I'm kind of I'm not really sure how I feel. I'm kind of just listening here, but it sounds to me like it's the same argument. If I own my land and I landmine it, you told me that's an aggressive act. Like I don't have the right to landmine it, even though I own it. And if you come on it and I put up signs saying "Walk on my land, you're gonna die," there's landmines, and you walk on it anyway.
That's different.
Well,
That's
okay,
different.
okay.
Because now
So
you've made people aware that your property line is a certain place.
Right.
You were talking about
let me
just buying a strip of the border,
Okay, that's fine.
and then letting people walk into a trap.
Trap. Okay, let's move back. If I just have a fence up, but I don't have that, there's landmines. Is that a trap then?
Oh yeah, perfectly. No, that's perfectly fine because you've intersubjectively communicated.
So I'm
your
trying to
property.
figure out at what line it becomes something else because now we go to the community level, right?
Well,
and
I can
you go,
explaining it to you.
Okay,
I'm explaining
right,
to you.
You're
So
saying
property.
these people that live here and own property Now they
Will
own
you
property. They owned it.
will you acknowledge that you were wrong in your assumptions of what I meant by property lines?
I
and
don't know what. I'm
why
not
that's an
making any
aggressive
assumptions.
act?
That's why I'm asking questions. I'm trying to find out in
Mhm.
my Gibbs brain where the line is. So now we're moving to the
Mhm.
like, okay, if I
Yeah,
own
to be
property and
clear,
I'm
the
part
reason you
of the
can't
community,
booby
I've
trap your
chosen here,
property
my
is almost
grandparents chose,
entirely
and now
primarily because of
a
law enforcement and
democratic
children.
community, which
Those are why a
you're
lot of
already
those
kind of
laws were
against,
created.
right? Says, hey, we're gonna make Jim Crow laws or whatever we're gonna call them.
If it's all
you're gonna be
voluntary, it's
excluded,
fine. So, for example, right, like we have Amish that live in this country, right? Do you think a law should come in that says that the Amish aren't allowed to discriminate on people coming into their community or shopping at their businesses based off of religion?
Yes.
Okay, so you think the Amish should be forcibly integrated by the power of the state? They shouldn't be able to live on their own as Amish people.
If other, well, yeah, but I think
Yeah,
the
that's why
reason, I
you're
think that
pro-slavery
actually
and I'm
already,
not.
well, I think that already is the law. The difference is kind of what you're saying, which is like, hey, why would a black guy want to live in a sundown town? Is most people don't want to become Luddites and give up technology, so they don't do this. But legally, I think they have the right to. I don't think you can enforce Amish
So
segregation in the way that they have it, right?
The Amish are not. You're speaking specifically of like Pennsylvania Dutch Amish. There are plenty of beachy Amish and Mennonites that use cell phones and all those,
Okay.
all the cars and things like that, right? They have insular communities that are completely voluntary, right? And so it is your position that if the Amish want to have a voluntary society of Amish people together, that the government should force the Amish to allow people to come into their town or into their private property?
So two things. One, is that not already the case legally? But two, yes, if it's not legally the case, yes. If that is not the case, it should be. That they shouldn't be able to say, because
So
then
it should be.
right,
So we
because
should
otherwise,
expand the rights violations. Of
I
the
believe
freedom
it's already the
association
case in the same
because
way.
the Amish are such a problem.
No, it's not a problem. Like, again, you could do this in a way that's not a problem, Fabian. Like, I completely concede this. Look, if you got a bunch of white people who are like, we're going to go out in the woods, no one has a society out here, we all just hate black people, we're going to go out there and we're going to form our little white commune, and no black people are going to want to come there because there's nothing fucking there, and it's probably some shittily run thing or whatever. It's just a little communist thing. Right, sure. But just because this one's not that bad does not mean that legally it should be permitted, because then if anyone does this in such a way that excludes black people from a greater part of the society, like Gibbs was saying, like, let's say this small town where you have like one doctor, one barber, one everything, and it's like, oh, we're all just saying no black people. Yeah, if these black people don't have a choice, you are enforcing some sort of thing on them. You are aggressing on them by excluding them. How if they otherwise would have...
Define the aggression. No, he's making
the aggression. The aggression is depriving someone of the ability to eat or get medical care if that's the only option to them.
None of those things are occurring.
I just described that was what's happening, right?
They're not depriving someone. You can grow food. You can move. You can freely use your body
on
your private property.
What if they don't have the money to move?
You're saying that the black person next door to the racist sundown town has the rights to the property and has a right to the people that live in
has
that
a right
town,
to exist in American society. Yeah,
let's go to Grid. Yeah, go ahead.
It's a fantasy.
Let me ask you, and look, this is dangerous territory for me because I'm from the South, and
well, are you
Matt? I don't think this is dangerous because I don't. He's not a bigot. He's just really stupid.
So back when all of this was going down and they were literally busing black people into white communities, to white schools, and these were completely white neighborhoods, do you think that was okay? Do you think that was fine? To use tax dollars to literally bus people to different schools to meet a quota of desegregation?
Yeah, because otherwise the people would have freely associate and kick these people out and force them into worse communities, which is what happened in a lot of places. So yeah, I do think that we needed to kind of force reintegration.
No, that's BS. Honestly, it actually destroyed a lot of black schools that were doing really well. So I think that this is a rose-colored glasses sort of thing.
To some extent, but
I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry. What did you say?
I said it could have, but to some extent, right? But separate but equal, right? We have to understand that a lot of these black schools were not doing as well as some white schools because they were not afforded. Because
some white schools weren't doing as well as other white schools.
a way of having good books and such, right? Now we
No,
can
that
get
wasn't
into
the
like the
case,
busing, but you know,
Yeah, I don't
unfortunately for
care.
your
I
argument,
don't
that
care if
was
the
not the
black
case.
school has worse books. Like that
you
Yeah,
doesn't that doesn't mean that you
the
get
books
to
are issued by the
violate
school
rights.
system. I mean, that's not a good argument. Well, back then it were. I mean, now they don't. But
if the school system is purposely giving bad giving black
that's an
students
assumption, not an
particularly
evidence. You shouldn't be.
those bad or used books or what have you,
You're
then
assigning you're assigning something that is not in evidence and did not happen with. I mean, I had to live through it. Okay, like I was a little kid, but I had to live through
Well,
it. My
how do you
parents had
deal
to
with the
live
You had to live with
hypothetical of an entire
desegregation?
white town randomly
I was
deciding that they hate black
my
people and there's
parents
only one black
did, and
person nearby?
I
Okay,
actually
I
went
dealt with
through.
that analogy. You deal with the analogy, okay? I'm
Yeah,
pretty
I
sure that
actually.
white
Well,
town
to be
just hates
clear,
that one
wait,
black
wait,
guy.
but Fabian, you
was
didn't
a
deal with it. You
kid
said,
in
why
the
doesn't he just
minority.
become a farmer even if he can't move? Like, as if
Hold on.
they decided one day
Why
he would
can't
just,
he move?
well, let's say he can't afford to.
Yeah. So I
So?
actually was one of the.
That's what I'm saying. So
white
you're
kids.
The
saying that
default
like
state of man is poverty. You don't get to enslave other people because it helps your fifis to feel better about some person
not-
having the right to other people's property.
if you're able to inflict harm like starvation on someone because they don't have the
That's not
capacity.
inflicting harm. Nature, but nature, the deep like nature doesn't just give you food. There's no grocery store in the middle of the jungle that we discovered. Like the man starves unless he acts, unless
Right.
he uses his volition.
I'll starve if I don't
and
go to
his will
Costco
to shape his
and buy my
environment.
groceries. But if Costco said you're not allowed in because you're white, and then every other grocery store did the same thing within a 30-mile radius, and I don't have the ability to get gas because the gas stations do this too,
You know what I would
I'll
do?
die.
I would call up Grid and say, "Hey, man, I just heard from Soypill of a wonderful business opportunity. We can create a grocery store. We can increase
And
the
by the
prices
time
by
you
like
figure that out,
20%.
I'm dead,
It doesn't
bro.
fucking
Like
matter.
I'm fucking dead at that point.
I
Greg,
understand.
you
I
got
understand that the person named Soypill doesn't understand how to grow food. I get that, but regardless, that doesn't mean that you get to violate other people's rights.
This
Okay.
I do want to interject here real
Actually,
quick because
I am surprised that I enjoy this argument from you so much, Fabian. I'm really surprised. I really like this argument, Fabian. I really.
Well, hold on.
like it.
I gotta say here, Grid. You know, when you said just now that was not the case in the schools and the books, I like on my surface in my head, I was like, I kind of was just like, wanted to roll my eyes, but I'm doing some Google searches. And this is a thing I just found. They're saying that black students who attended either predominantly white or predominantly black schools, if you attended a racially integrated school, you were
Oh, they
more
did
likely.
horrible.
Yeah, it was a year and a half less. You were likely to go to school than if you went to either an all black or all white
It didn't
school
help
or whatever.
anybody but a bunch of idiots who thought that desegregation was a wonderful thing.
Yeah,
A bunch
and
of
I'm looking at
dorks.
some of these other ones that are talking about the financial
Virtue
impact that this
signaling
had.
assholes.
This is kind of crazy
I'm with
stuff. I didn't
Fabian on
realize.
this. I am fucking with Fabian.
I
I've
don't
watched
know.
that shit go
No,
down.
you're not, because my solution would have been to abolish all public schools. Now you don't have a fucking
Well,
problem. Just privatize it.
I'm kind of getting there with you
There's
on
just the
that
rabbit
because
hole we just go
my
deep
tax
in.
dollars are.
but
Which
yeah,
is
I-
one of my
I
10
just-
arguments that I laid out in why Democrats support slavery, because they support
You
public.
know, you
Wait, can I-
almost- you
Gibbs,
almost
Gibbs,
had
Gibbs.
me hooked.
I need to pursue this line of logic from Fabian too, because like, okay, let's say
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
instead of Brown
Fabian,
versus Board of Education,
Fabian.
we did what you did. We abolished all public
Give
schools.
it
So
a
now
chest,
you have
Fabian.
Hell yeah.
Fabian with an A. It's hard A. Sorry, excuse me.
It's Fabian. It's just like I said, it's a play on the Fabian Society in the UK.
Gotcha. My
It
apologies,
just means
Fabian.
incrementalism.
Gotcha. Let's say we live in this world where in the 1950s and 60s, rather than desegregate, we said, fuck it, free association, abolish public schools. Now you have an entire swath, 13% of the population, I don't know if it was the same number at the time, who does not have access to the wealth
It was like
or the
12%, somewhere around
generational
there,
achievements or the connections, and you're like, go fucking make your own shit. And then all the people with the established precedent who have all the money and the buildings and the education and the teachers can do what they want.
What's the dropout rate now, Soy Bill?
What?
What is the dropout rate?
Can I finish? I want to ask him the question, and then we can talk about how much you don't like black people, all right?
I would really like you to. You're making a point that 12% would be
Dumb
harmed,
black
and
people.
And I'm saying,
Like that one guy, the whole
asking you
white town
to
hated.
give
That guy's
me
probably an
the
asshole.
number, the dropout ratio, because I'm going to guess it's higher than 12%.
What?
Don't know.
What does
That's
this
why
have
I'd
to
like
do
you
with my question as to how this would
because
function?
you were driving to a point of 12% of people would be left behind and harmed by
Mhm.
this by not desegregating, and I'm
Mhm.
saying that 12%, it's higher than 12% that currently drop out because the schools are desegregated, and that's exactly
Wait,
what
you think the dropout rate of all schools for all races is because
Mhm.
there are mixed race people in these schools?
I don't know, but you don't.
This is what
know
you
that
just
12%
asserted.
You don't know that 12% because
What
they
is
were.
happening?
So first of all, wait, no,
You're
Grid,
attributing
Grid,
something
you're
that doesn't exist
presupposing, you're
to so-
presupposing
I-
that the
you can make
dropout rate
shit up,
was
I can
no,
make
Grid,
shit up.
Grid, you're presupposing that first of all the dropout rate before
No,
you're
presuppose that
please let me finish.
12%
You're
of
presupposing that the
uneducated people
dropout rate was
because they're
0% and then reintegration, and now it's higher than 13%. So the comparable number would be the 0% dropout before with the 13% of the black people who would not be able to freely get good educations because they have no access to resources, which is ridiculous. But now you're also saying, well, it must
You're
also be
correct.
because
It is
of
ridiculous that they have no access to
It is actually
resources in
ridiculous
1950s
because
America.
I don't believe the 12% number for black people. I believe that. I mean,
you don't believe that that's how many black people there are?
I don't believe the number. No, I don't. And I also noticed
Wait,
that you're not,
wait, do you think
you're not-
what's the
you're
number
not
of black
talking
people?
about white people who were not able to go to school.
What?
Wait, hold on. Grid, just for clarification, because now I'm confused. All right. How many?
What is happening?
What percentage of the U.S.?
What is going
This is my
on?
question, real quick. Just maybe this will clarify. What
Yeah.
percentage right now do you think of America is black?
Oh, I have no idea.
Wait, what?
I have not.
12.7.
Wait, why don't you?
I think it's like
You are a
13%,
terrible
right?
racist.
Why
if
don't you
don't
believe
know
the number?
percentage of
I'm
black
a terrible
people?
racist.
All right?
I don't know that. I'm
No, no, no,
sorry.
no, no,
It's
no.
like 13%, right?
Why
13%?
don't you believe the 13% number?
I don't believe that there were 13% of people, black
What
people.
about
not
right
being
now? How many
educated.
black people are there right now in the United States? Like what percentage?
I have
of
no
population
idea.
is it?
13.
No,
13%.
wait, Grid.
That's
I was
right.
just using that number
It's
to
roughly
say that
13.
if you completely separated and let people self-segregate and abolished all public schools, that 13% of the population, aka all of the black people, would have this completely disproportionate, like, I'm held back for 10
Would it
minutes
be
in the race head
disproportionate?
start.
Why wouldn't white people not get educated the same? Why are you
Are you asking me why black
superimposing-
people had less resources in the 50s and 60s?
I'm asking you why you presuppose that when
It's not a
that was
preposit. This
horrible
is just
time
basic
for white
history. Black people
as
were
well.
slaves
There
for
were
hundreds of
white
years. They
people-
got
Have you
freed
ever
in
heard the term
1865, and then they faced
Have you
Jim
ever
Crow
heard
and
the term-
antebellum.
You can keep talking, but I'm going to. I really want an answer here. Do you really believe that all white people lived a life of luxury? Have you never heard of poor white trash?
No, I've never claimed
in the 50s
that.
and 60s, my mom and her
I
parents.
believe that you
lived
were
in a
poor
house
white
in a
trash. Yes.
townhouse, young man. I've got to be honest with you. This is an idiotic.
Maybe let's not use that term.
That's an idiotic.
I'm not.
term.
Wait, Grid, but you're assuming that I'm saying that all white people had it good.
No, I'm listening to what you're saying.
Okay,
and
so-
what you said.
Okay,
is
let me try
wrong,
one more
and I'm
time. Tell me
correcting
where I lose
on
you.
what
Okay.
is wrong.
Would
You're
you
saying
like no?
that-
No,
you're
listen to me.
saying
No,
that
don't say what I'm
black
saying. Listen to me,
people
please, Grid.
specifically
Grid,
were
please listen to me.
disadvantaged, and I'm saying everyone was disadvantaged, and I dislike it when people play the race card. This
Okay,
way.
wait. I'm sorry. Do you think that
I love your
white
virtue
privilege? Do you
signaling.
think
I
white
really do.
privilege existed in 1850?
Someone in my chat just said 50% of the good arguments are made by 12% of the people on this panel.
It's pretty good.
Grid, do you think that white
that's
privilege
funny.
existed in 1840?
I have no clue. I wasn't alive. You tell
Okay,
me.
can you
Was white
insinuate
privilege-
from your historical knowledge that maybe it was easier to be
Well,
white in
I
1840?
really want to hear your story. What is?
Okay, so
you
what I'm
presupposing
saying
there?
here, and tell me where I lose you, because I promise you I'm not trying to deceive or assume anything, is that in 1950 and 60, not every white person was like live in luxury, had a TV, they, with all 5 black and white channels. What I'm saying is that if you look at the history of how black people were brought to this country, were freed as slaves, faced in Reconstruction, and then faced all the segregation up until, the civil rights moment, they're going to have less generational wealth. They're going to be worse off overall in communities because there's less money in those communities. And if, as Fabian suggested, you completely shut off public schooling at that moment instead of resegregating these schools, you're now having a whole community, 13% of the population, at a huge disadvantage to then do then everyone do free association and build your own schools game. That's all I'm saying.
That's a
Yeah, not
really
true.
swell story.
The disadvantage
However,
is the integration. I think the forced integration is the actual damage. If you would allowed people to
that was the actual damage.
abolish public schools, would have been the advantage for them. They would have gotten ahead much quicker
How would they have done that?
because it's a superior system of education. It's more efficient.
They don't have any money to
economic
build
calculation
schools.
problem.
They don't have
Wait,
the
hold on,
resources to
hold on.
like.
This
What do you
idea
mean?
this idea that like even in the turn of the century in late 1800s, early 1900s, there were mutual aid societies and fraternal order societies, even before the Great Depression, where blacks were able to freely associate and get ahead and start businesses. Like this idea that 1950s black people were like this, like it's honestly, it reminds me of that George Bush quote,
It's
the soft
insulting.
bigotry of low expectations, right?
I'm-
It's like obviously
I'm-
black people couldn't come
No.
together and like figure out a way
Black.
to educate their
I'm aware
children.
of
These poor,
Tulsa
dumb
and Black
blacks
Wall Street.
had
I'm
to be,
no.
you know what I mean? Like stop.
What I'm saying
It's
is
silly.
the amount
hold on. Let me-
resources that you would need to accommodate, which is replace and supplant, which is the public schooling system, did not exist in the black community at writ large. I'm not saying it was incapable of forming little schools or forming strong communities because they did this. I'm saying that if you
wasn't-
just
To be
Yeah.
used.
I
Well, let
completely
me-
disagree. I think you're just pulling that out of your ass. You're
Hold
just
on, let
saying
me-
like,
can
oh,
I-
because
hey,
white people
hold
had
on.
more money,
Let me
things
ask
would have been bad.
Let me
No.
just ask a question. It's like I don't know. I'm questioning a lot of life choices right this second. But I'm over here. I'm
Good.
listening, and
I think the
Question
prop
the
should do
slavery support.
libertarians support slavery. I think that's where we're at right now.
I guess because I'm over here. I don't know. No, that's not the problem. I'm sorry.
I know.
I didn't mean. I guess I'm over here like I'm just like my brain is cracking.
I'm just over
One,
here knocking them
not-
down, buddy.
Well, yeah. So, first,
Boom,
grid really blew
boom,
my mind,
boom.
and I didn't know that there was stats to back this up about the schooling and the integration not working out the way it intended. But
Yeah, integration was pretty rough.
because like
But I mean,
on
it's
the-
like
let me
it's
throw another-
it's like, hold on,
growing
hold on.
pains.
Let me just explain my brain break here because I
Okay.
don't think it's mutually exclusive. So I'm sitting here. That one really shocked me when I looked it up because I'm like, no way, that's true. That's something that just in my head I would have took as fact because common sense would say no. But then
Common sense
we're
would say
going-
yes, Gibbs, just to be clear, that if you put a bunch of people in communities where they're not necessarily wanted and they're facing a shit ton of backlash and literally have to have at gunpoint black kids allowed into the school, it's going to be a lot harder for them to operate and have been
No,
held back for
that-
generations.
and the white
that
kids
part I
too,
agree
yeah.
with. Hold on, that part I agree with you.
No, the gunpoint is at the white kids, to be clear, yes.
To be clear,
Because they
no,
were
I-
racist.
I agree with you at that point, but my thing is in the long-term
No,
integration.
I mean
and,
it was
and,
rough
and,
on the
uh,
white kids
and
too.
the other
Sure.
schools getting the separate but equal, and all the other stuff, like the funding and all that. I on the surface, I thought that would have been the results would not have been as bad as they were. However, now when we're talking about what Fabian you just said with the private schools being better than the public schools, like in principle, I want to agree. I think that it would work. However, when we're talking about 1950s America with 13% of the population, okay, let's just follow your line of logic. Now, I am sympathetic to your point of view with me going, life's not fair, sucks to suck. You're tough tits. You have to live the life you live, right? But on the flip side, I sit here and go, oh, well, it doesn't make sense that if we were going to take away the public school, that these people who, like, not a very large percentage, it's probably 1% of that 13%, or probably less, were living the good life with the fraternal orders and had Black Wall Street. This has got to be probably less than 1%. It's got to be like 0.5%. And so you're telling me, of the U.S. population, 12.5% of that, or let's just go with 12% if it was 12.5 then, of the population doesn't have access to this fraternal society, doesn't have access, and they don't have generational wealth. You're not going to be able to convince me that suddenly the private societies are going to do better than like the U.S. government going here, everybody gets the same textbook. Like because you're gonna have a lady whose grandma was a slave, whose mama
you got like 7
lived under
arguments
Jim
in there.
Crow. Well, hold on, and then you got Mama Jim Crow, and she's not been educated at
I
all.
feels like I
and
blue
she's
pilled
supposed to teach the next
Gibbs, but
generation. I
really
don't
they're
know,
just so
organic
extremely
chemistry.
libertarian
Like, no, that's
hold
that
just
this
not
seems
gonna
crazy
happen.
to the
Like,
conservatives.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Gibbs,
so
for one thing, let me-
no,
hold on,
don't
let's
help
go-
him out. He just made like 7 arguments against me.
I
Right?
know,
Like
I
let,
know,
let
but
me let,
I
let me make
wanna help you
one in
understand
return.
something that I just literally had an
God
argument
damn,
about
brother.
yesterday, and that is this idea that Soy Pill seems glued to, that blacks were so disadvantaged and they were so poor, and yet the income disparity isn't that large until after well, we can go back to 1907, and where it was really close. After Reconstruction, blacks actually made more. People don't know that. People think that and during Reconstruction that they made more than white people, or more than white people made more than black people. That's not the case. Black people made because again, poor white trash.
Well,
I'm just
which
going to
one?
say poor white trash. And
Okay, so I'm
Don't
gonna
say that
respond.
word.
after World War
Those things.
II. It really changed
let
after
me-
World War II, and that's where you start seeing that income disparity, the wage disparity between black people and white people, starting to really happen. And so Soy Pill, to some degree, is right that in the 50s that that did start broadening, but they weren't dirt poor. These weren't like
When you say
barely-
they,
Also,
you're talking about
Nobody
an
used the
entire
WT
population,
reference
just
no
to be
more. I don't know
clear.
if that's TOS or not.
But
Nobody use it no more.
I just sent you a graph in the group chat. You can look at the white-black per capita wealth ratio. I don't know why this is an argument right now. It's just always been in favor of white people, like the entire time. It has never flipped. There's never been a moment where the entirety of the black communities had more money than the white community. I'm so baffled by this. Is all in contested.
So I've gotten
I
like
can explain
we're at
that.
like
It's
argument
the
number
carpet-
11.
the carpet
We're
bagging
at like
thing.
argument number
Go
11.
ahead,
So
Fabian, go ahead.
we're now fighting ghosts because I'm let me respond. Okay. So
go ahead.
earlier
And then
we
we'll
talked
wrap
about
up here.
earlier you were with me, Gibbs, when we were
I'm
talking
just confused.
about.
I'm trying to
Hold
go
on.
through this.
Will you? Hey, hold on. Let me
Go ahead.
make the argument. I get you're confused. I'm working with you. Okay. So you were with
Yeah.
me when we were talking about welfare as a dependency trap, but for some reason you seem to be. There seems to be like you're standoffish on public schooling as a dependency trap.
No. Oh,
And
maybe let me clarify. Okay, go ahead.
No, I don't need you to fucking
ahead. Go
clarify
ahead.
after you made
Go
like
ahead.
7 arguments and then Greg
Sure.
made an argument and then Soy made an argument.
Go ahead,
Let
just
me
finish
fucking
up. Go ahead.
defend this position you're all attacking. All right. Public education is extremely expensive. We get very little return on investment for it. Depending on where you are, it's somewhere between 11,000 to about 25,000 per student per school year, right? So if you're in like New York City, for example, you know, to the state is paying about 25K in order to educate a child. Let's say you're a family with 3 children, that's $75,000 a year is what it costs. I don't know how many. Moms could easily stay home, right? You can do Montessori school situations. You can do situations where mothers or fathers work 4 or 5 days a week, and then they have a group of children within a family or a community where they homeschool for 1 or 2 days, and then a different parent homeschools for 1 or there are so many incredibly cheap alternatives to public schooling, which is extremely expensive. And it's important to note that every one of those $11,000 to $25,000 is money taken out of the economy. Where every single time, it is money that is in the form of taxation. That means that prices go up, food gets more expensive, wages go down, businesses grow at a slower rate. That there is a cost to educating children. And that cost is astronomically more than it would be if we had a private system where people could, yes, some people could pay for a nice private school. Some people would just homeschool alone, which is what people do now, even though they still have to subsidize public education because they don't get tax rebates for homeschooling. But nevertheless, the other portion of that, when we're talking about the dependency trap, what happens at schools? They train people to be workers. They train people to be obedient. They train people to be statists. Every fucking morning in every public school in America, they get up and they say the Pledge of Allegiance, and they make sure that they understand the hierarchy that they are under. They promote collectivist ideologies. They promote social emotional learning. They promote They promote a form of ethics that is acceptable by the state. It is a form of indoctrination, and it is a form of learned helplessness that is imposed upon people so that those people then end up having to pay. And even the poor people are paying by having lower wages and higher inflation from the money that is stolen from you.
Where do
so
you
that we
think
can
the
have
money
public
goes
education
once it's in
systems.
the public education? Do you think they eat it or burn it? Like, what do you mean it was removed from the economy? I'm so confused by that one.
Well, I do want to say
That's
one
retarded.
thing.
Like
to
that's
clarify-
that's just retarded.
No,
Like,
I
it's
genuinely
taken out
don't
of
know
the
what you
economy,
mean. Like, when I
and then
hear
it's
money
put into
removed
public
from the
schools.
economy, I think it's being sent overseas and not like repatriated at any point. Like,
no, just because the money is like if I take all of your money
Mhm.
and then I do some government program, obviously the money went into some government.
Okay, sorry, it was the
program.
language you used. I
But
apologize.
that
I
money-
understand
The
all
money
taxation
is
stuff.
still
Got it.
taken from you.
Got it.
Right, that money, every dollar that you tax means
Yeah.
at some level that you are decreasing wages in America. You
Yeah,
are slowing
yes.
business.
No, I
growth
understand
in
the language
America.
now. I forgot for a second for some reason that you were
Right, and
libertarian.
every time the government spends money without actually taxing said money, then it's a tax on inflation, and that means higher prices. So some way, some form, whether you're poor or whether you're rich, you are paying for these programs out of even if you don't pay any taxes, you're paying in the sense that your ability to go and get a job in the labor market is less than what it would be because there's less jobs available, and the wages, because of the competition, the supply and demand equation of labor, means that your wages are lower. What I am arguing is that
Go ahead.
when we had a problem with public education and segregation, the appropriate response would have been to stop indoctrinating children, stop stealing money, and allow the market and allow families to be able to educate their children. And we have seen over and over and over again that when Black people are free to associate amongst people that they choose to associate with, that they do great things. And when the government gives out handouts, what they do is they teach learned helplessness and they indoctrinate people into a system of dependency that makes them collectivist socialists and makes their life worse.
Just to be clear, do you think that if Black people were forced to figure everything out privately on their own, like at the time,
like really,
to be clear, I had no idea. You're purple to me, but go ahead.
Like
Go ahead,
listen.
yeah.
I'm like literally the only Black person here, and everything that you have said is just complete bullshit. It's complete bullshit.
Do you have an argument?
Because I fucking lived it.
Standpoint epistemology is a contradictory bullshit nonsense statement. Give me the argument.
Okay, go ahead.
A Black woman is speaking. Sit down and listen, Fabian.
That you said is complete 100% bullshit. Because then when you start talking about taxation, right? You want to start talking about taxation of services for schools, right? Then let's talk about services of firefighters. Let's talk about the services of what those taxation does. Now, I do not.
Yes, we should privatize firefighters. Yes,
I do not believe at all that anything that you've said constitutes anything. Now, let's just.
Do you have an argument?
There is no helplessness. There's none. There is no learned helplessness. As Black person,
I didn't want to go here.
In this fucking world, there is no learned helplessness. Now, everything that we have,
she's falling into all his stupid traps, and he's just going to be like, I can counter this with my dumb and idiot thing. Instead of pointing out the stupidity of he is doing, she's like so pearl clutchy about his arguments. This is going to get so annoying.
I don't need an argument. I'm fucking here.
Do you know what an argument is?
I'm here. I'm the only.
Do you know what an argument is? I'm just curious.
Well,
it's a thing I've noticed on the left. They don't even know what an argument is. Do you know what an argument is?
What?
Do you know what an argument is?
I know what the fucking argument is. Don't fucking be condescending.
Well, I'm being condescending because you're being stupid. So can you give me an argument?
Stupid. I'm telling you my lived experience. I don't need a fucking argument.
Standpoint epistemology is not an argument.
Well,
standpoint epistemology is contradictory nonsense.
Listen, as a person who is on the left and who believes in socialism, I believe in all of this collectiveness. If we are all working together, then we are all striving to be together and move to a certain point.
I'm gonna
That
crash
will
out. She has
all
no
Why do you need to
idea
steal my
like
shit?
what
Why
his
do you need to
thing
steal
is.
my
This
shit
is
in
so
order for you to
dumb.
succeed? Sounds like learned
I
helplessness to me.
oh
It's
my
about being
god.
collectivism.
She's like
It's about
Right.
she
You're
knows
gonna
what she's
take
talking about, but
from
she doesn't know
me
what
and
he's talking
force
about.
me into your
She's getting into this
Everybody is
libertarian
like-
brain rot.
like,
I'm gonna kill
that's
myself.
how
This
Fuck
is
you.
awful.
Go do your own thing. Like,
Okay,
go build.
all right, hold on.
Why do you need me? Unless it's learned helplessness.
We're moving away from. We're moving really far from where we were going. Even now, we're going down.
Well, no, she's showcasing
social-
how the left supports
Sure.
slavery. She's a slave.
I had one more. I had one more. I had one more thing I wanted to dive into. Yeah, I had one more thing I wanted to dive into there, but we are past time. So what we're gonna do now? Let's just give some closing thoughts and get out of here. And because I don't know if I can do another deep dive. I don't know if I can dive more down the rabbit hole tonight. Woo! I got so many questions. Like, but I
got so many answers.
I haven't to say anything, and I'm gonna turn it over to Tyler because maybe you can answer this by opening. My argument is not against private schools. Like, as a conservative individual, I like private schools. I just find it slightly ludicrous that, especially after Black Wall Street got burned down and like such a small percentage, and you're telling me that like somebody is gonna have the same. And once again, I would even. It's just the argument isn't the one I would make. Maybe it's just maybe I'm like confused because you're like my argument would be tough tits, life is shitty, right? But the idea that this person whose grandma was a slave, her mom is totally uneducated, her husband's gonna work in like the factory, and she's not been educated by anybody, never been to a school, and then now we're gonna privatize it and get rid of public schools, and this person's supposed to teach. I just don't think that
it's a soft bigotry of low expectations. It's just your
just don't
racism.
think that. I guess it's my racism. The one I'm saying is I just don't see that that the logic would be that they're going to be equal faster based off
Gibbs, that's because you're looking at this completely historically accurately and understanding the consequences of oppressing a group of people for hundreds of years and how they might not have the same opportunities. And Fabian is living in his libertarian fantasy where as soon as you say go, then everyone can just figure it out and everyone has the exact same knowledge and background and wealth and everything, and it's cool.
I think I think now
you have a
I
straw
might be
man
more willing
because
to say,
you can't argue against my points.
So my thing is like now I would see, this is why I'm not a full libertarian. Like I would argue now, okay, I think people are in an even enough playing field that maybe we should remove the public school, we should do private or something. Like and I'm not saying that I would have to look at
the historical knowledge is on my side, not his.
I would say I'd be more willing to consider that, but like at the time I don't know. I'm mind breaking. I don't know. I'm gonna think
well, how far does it go, Fabian? How far? Wait, Fabian. I'm curious. How far does it go?
Shut up.
No, I need to ask you. 1860. If you did this in 1860, would you have the same argument instead of 1950?
Well, okay. Well, I'll answer your question with as far back as time immemorial. We should reduce the state, and we should let people be free to freely associate and not be under the thumb of the state and be able to educate their children in such a way that's nonviolent. But when you talk about well, it works now, but it wouldn't work then. I just want to point out that slavery was abolished in Massachusetts in 1783, and that interracial marriage was abolished in Massachusetts in 1843. So why is it that you have a 70-year head start in Massachusetts, but for some reason the outcomes are the same? What we saw at the turn of the century is that Black people were doing well when they were able to freely associate and they were able to work together in communities together. But then when the government stepped in, when Social Security stepped in, when the New Deal stepped in, when the silent generation stepped in and kept giving handouts and pushing these things.
Can I just ask you this, though? Because you bring up Massachusetts, right? I would assume a Black person living in Massachusetts in 1783 or in 1843 or whichever year you said is going to be a lot different than a Black person living in North Carolina or South Carolina or Georgia or I guess not Texas. Texas actually did have those slaves up until for a certain point. So, but it would be different than a Black person living in Florida. Texas did have two whole thing.
I'm so incredulous.
So you had two
because I don't know so many things
from the South.
But I can't imagine being this like proudly ignorant.
So roughly 1865 is the beginning of that, and then with the end of World War II and the GI Bill and a lot more money flowing into communities in 1945, 1950, in that area, you had a second great migration out of the South. So predominantly black people are going to be in the South, especially the Deep South. And then after
Why?
1865, because that's where slavery was.
Okay.
Well, why does that matter? You say go once they're free, and they can just freely associate and figure it out, right?
Well, your straw man's is not an argument.
No, you can say no if that's not what you
come up with-
think. That's just what you think in 1950.
no,
but
that's-
why not in 1865?
At no point in time is any demographic group that has less wealth going to have the same opportunities as someone that has more wealth. I just don't believe in using socialism and theft and violence to try and forcibly give people opportunities by stealing from other people.
What if you
Like,
already used
I
that
will say,
socialism and
however,
theft
that-
to
that-
enslave them in the first place, and you need to rectify that? Or do you just say like,
I'm all for restitution for slavery. I've said multiple times that we not only do we owe black people that can trace their lineage reparations, we also owe the Cherokee in northern Georgia that were forcibly removed by Andrew Jackson reparations.
I will say I
Right? Like, I
commend
have
the
no problem with
consistency.
that.
It loops all the way around to yes, we should do reparations, but also for everyone who's paid taxes, which includes black people and Cherokee Indians. Okay.
Yeah, we also should do reparations for all the taxes. Correct?
Gotcha.
Yes.
Yes.
And at this point, the calculation would most likely be that blacks would probably not get that much, just because white people will have paid so much more in forms of taxation.
True.
Okay. All right. Closing thoughts, Tyler.
Well,
Thank you for talking so much this debate, Tyler.
I got a long outro.
One more thing before Tyler goes.
Yeah. I got a long outro because again it's been like 40 minutes, and again I've enjoyed watching. Maybe I just didn't even need to be here for it. I could just watch Soy's channel or something. All right. Since we didn't talk about the topic, we only got to it like the modern day spin on the topic that Gibbs was trying to allude to with this. I'm gonna kind of address that, put a cap on it with Soy because we were kind of and Grid and I were kind of going with that. So I get Soy's argument for change. I said this earlier. The government has the ability to change. Not only do I disagree with his prescription to change, but I like a lot of the policies he's advocating for. That being said, until those things actually change, what these states and judges are doing is not right in the current system. You don't get to ignore the Supreme Court and continue to make illegal injunctions on the entire country if you're a district judge. You don't get to do sanctuary cities that ignore and sometimes work against federal law. It just isn't how it works. I'm sorry, and I do agree with your prescriptions to some degree. We can have the reason we have the system in place we do is because it vets people, and it works very well. I'm somebody that just went through it with a family member, so I can tell you it's not that hard, and most of it is vetting. 90% of it is vetting to make sure you're not lying and to make sure everything you say checks out. Outside of European societies, I don't know if you guys have traveled much, but I've been around the world a couple of times. Outside of European societies, the world works very differently. You do need to be assimilated, and we don't want to overload our system. We saw this during the Biden administration when they weren't deporting people that had the proper orders, letting people in on the border that probably shouldn't have come in, and letting asylum abuse go on. We saw New York City, Chicago, and several other cities completely overloaded. The infrastructure they had in place, both through legislation and through government funding, was completely overloaded. We saw New York City sewers being overly stressed as well. We don't have the capacity to take in certain amounts. That's
The
why
immigrants
we
are
allow
coming.
it to be
They're shitting in our
1.25 a year.
toilets.
Let
It's too
Congress
much.
Delegate that. When you start endorsing illegal immigration through this incentive system, you bypass Congress and thus bypass the will of the voter. And until that's changed, I can't agree with you, even though in spirit I do. Now to the libertarian. Arguing with Scott is always fun. I've gone on a show to try to better understand his arguments. To the best of my ability, I think he would tell you I gave a good faith listen and gave some good questions back to get deeper and deeper into it. But at the end of the day, I still think that his system would result basically in just Mad Max, and luckily only 1% of the population votes for it. So for a group that only gets 1% of the vote, he did 50% of the good points because he got 50% of the damn talking time out of 7 people. Though Scott here admitted that his system would let rich people buy a bunch of land and kill anybody that came over the border if they wanted to, if it was their land. And he would also allow for ethno-states. And then on top of that, there's no person in place to actually police if you contractually sell your child away to slavery. I would say job's done here in saying libertarianism isn't that great of a system for the people. But at the end of the day, that's kind of what this devolved in. I wouldn't say devolved. Altered into, which is always fun. I enjoy them. It's just not what I prepped for, so I was kind of quiet.
Well, thank you so much for that. I'm going to let Grid go next. Grid, go ahead.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. First of all, I learned some new arguments tonight. I'm fascinated by Fabian's Civil Rights Act induced slavery argument. I find it impressive, and we're gonna have to talk more about that because I mean, yeah, I get it. I do. Um, you know, I also prepped for a much different argument. I think we started off down the right path, and we got, I don't know how we got train wrecked, but it was an awesome train wreck. Um, I don't. Soy Pill did a great job tonight. To be honest with you, it's just there's no logic behind his position. He just let everybody in, or let everybody that's here now, let them become the path to citizenship. Let's not deport them. Cost more money. And all of the excuses, not reasons, excuses on why we shouldn't do something that the law says we should do. Um, I don't know. I can't agree with that. I don't believe in it. Because we don't have a nation if we act in this way. I understand the position that he has. I just can't get there from here. As far as the rest of the argument, that we kind of devolved to, we didn't really evolve to it. We devolved to it. Again, found Scott's position and argument absolutely fascinating. I can't wait to talk to him more about it. And I don't think Soy Pill's position in this was tenable. I think that he really rather thinks of anyone but white people in this country as oppressed, marginalized and victimized, rather than just simply say, yeah, we're all people, we all have it bad, and yeah, some have it worse than others, but that happens in any group, in any society. Fuck it, let's just keep going. I don't understand his position. I tried. Maybe it's just, maybe he just didn't explain it well enough, or maybe his position sucks. I don't know. I don't really care at this point. I've got a headache and I want to quit. You guys have been awesome tonight. Gibbs, thanks for the opportunity, and I'm done.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here. Malakat.
Yeah, so sorry I wasn't here. I have a broken foot and things are fucking hard. Just want to say that socialism works. I think all of you misunderstand the plight of Black people as white people. That is your blind spot. And y'all pretty much need to work at it.
Oh, watch the
And
crossfire.
work better at it. So that's pretty much it. I'll leave it at that. And yeah, fucking white people.
All right. Well,
Amen.
I
Well, I think,
disavow.
honestly,
Yes,
for
I
Fabian's
disavow,
half
all
black,
right?
I don't,
Yeah.
or quarter black or something
Not
like
Well,
that.
let's go.
black.
Let's go to
That.
Fabian. Let's go
My
to
bottom
Fabian
half.
here. Fabian.
Oh, you say you want to go to me? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I started this stream with a definition of what slavery is. I'll repeat that. The definition that I chose to use from a libertarian perspective is any system that forcibly takes the product of one's labor or property or compels a person to act against his will as a form of aggression that negates bodily autonomy and reduces the individual to a state of servitude. And over again, what we saw tonight was, what it eventually turned into just the, as I said, quoting George Bush, the soft bigotry of low expectations, which is, that Black people need to steal from the white people, and get that wealth back so that they can be able to have the same opportunities, when history doesn't show this. In fact, what history actually shows is that when Black people are free to freely associate, they make programs like the United Order of the True Reformers. William Washington Brown was able to take freed slaves and turn them into business owners and own hotels and have health care that they communally did through fraternal order societies. And I agree a little bit with what Malakat said. Not the racist and shit and the standpoint of epistemology shit, but I do agree that when collectives voluntarily work together, that they can do great things. And we've seen that in history where you know, where black people collectively came together and they were able to choose their own doctors, where they could choose their own teachers, where they were able to create schools that in many ways outcompeted what it was that the state was giving them. Much like the Royal Order of the Moose did at the turn of the century, they were able to educate themselves better than would the public school system, even while having to pay those same taxes that supported that form of theft and enslavement. Schools have been used just like healthcare mandates, just like labor unions, just like the gun control, just like affirmative action, just like the welfare state in general, just like taxation, just like the regulations on property and NIMBY laws. Over and over and over again, Democrats support slavery, and they love to use blacks as a token piece to win elections, as they consistently stomp on them and never give them what it is that they promise them, and instead string them along so that they can use them as a voter base. I will end this. You can find me, Fabian Liberty, on YouTube or Twitter, with one of my favorite Ayn Rand quotes, my favorite being about contradictions from Atlas Shrugged by Francisco d'Anconia. But my second favorite would be the smallest minority on earth is the individual. Those who deny individual rights cannot claim to be defenders of minorities.
Thank you so much. Soy Bill.
Yeah, I came here to talk about illegal immigration. Sorry I didn't get through to you, Grid, although I do appreciate your good faith in listening. Basically, my argument is it just does not make economic sense to do mass deportations. A lot of people are here. I think they're not hurting anyone. They're nice dads and moms that are just hanging out, working, and unfortunately getting abused and paid under the table a lot. And I think those people should be reintegrated as easily as possible. I think it's totally capable within our system and with not as much expense. I love to steal more money from people like Fabian to pay for it, and that includes me too. I would pay a lot of taxes. Somehow we've devolved into the fact that ethno-states are cool from Fabian. 1840s didn't have white privilege. That didn't happen. Malakat, I'm sorry I caught all the crossfire for being white, but, you know, I get it. You know, I get it. I understand. Don't worry. But in terms of bigotry or low expectations, I only really have it for libertarians, because every time they talk, they say the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my entire fucking life. Thanks for having me.
True.